Good evening and welcome to the San Bruno City Council meeting of February 28, 2012. I'd like to thank the Garden Club for the arrangement they always provide for us.
No, I don't want that over there.
Roll call,
Sorry,
please.
I don't want it in front of me.
City Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Here.
Vice Mayor Ibarra.
Here.
Mayor Ruane.
Here.
Councilmember Medina.
Here.
Councilmember Salazar.
Here. Good, and I see the principal of Parkside here. Would you lead us in the pledge?
Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Announcements, no formal announcement tonight, but I would like to, this could go on later in the meeting, but we do have a crowd here tonight. So I have received some inquiries regarding all of the very heavy truck traffic in Crestmore and Crystal Springs Road from the Harry Tracy water treatment plant. And we know that it has to do with the Hetch Hetchy rebuild, but I would like staff to come back at the next meeting and give us a more detailed response as to what it's all about and what, if any, the truckers and the city of San Francisco are going to do to repair the streets that are in fact being damaged. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, if I may take just a moment to let you know that staff is aware of the concerns that are emanating primarily from residents at the Crystal Springs Terrace apartment, which is directly, apartment complex directly across the street from the entrance to the Harry Tracy water plant where the work is occurring. Staff actually met today with project and plant management staff at the Harry Tracy water plant. And it would be my recommendation that at their offer that we also invite them to be here hopefully at your next meeting so that both we and they can give you a full and complete report.
All right, good idea.
Through the chair. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for bringing that up. I've had some calls too, and in addition just to the truck traffic, can we get more of an idea of exactly what their plans are, timeline, what's going on, removal of soil, all of those particular things that I'd forward you information on so it's a more detailed understanding for those residents that are at the Crystal Springs Terrace apartments.
Yes, so actually it was not my intent that you would have to wait 2 weeks. I have information that we generated today. I will provide that to the City Council, and in that manner you'll have information that you can share with residents who are contacting you. We thought it would also be a good idea to have a more public presentation and opportunity for members of the community at large to hear and understand what's going on. So we'll do both of those things.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Presentations, we don't have any presentations this evening. Review of the agenda, any changes, arrows you want to make? Okay, stand as submitted. Approval of the minutes of special city council meeting, a study session of February 14th and the regular city council meeting of January 14, 2012. Any errors, changes, omissions? Member of the public?
My name is Alan Lubke. I live on Fleetwood Drive. Your Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. On the minutes of the meetings of February 14th, if you'll go to paragraph 6 and see where it begins, Alan Lubke, Fleetwood Drive, at the second sentence says he also cited a sentence on page 3 of 3. Cited means to place on a site. The correct spelling of, I believe, the intention there should be C-I-T-E-D and not S-I-T-E-D. So if we could have that correction either made to these minutes, or I could come to you could put it in this, describe what I've said tonight and have that correct. The second comment is the next paragraph where it begins City Manager Jackson. If you look at the very last paragraph, it has to do with the mayor's comment about my suggested changes to the minutes. And the sentence reads, "The mayor asks the changes made per Alan Lubke." Now, that's an incomplete sentence. Perhaps the mayor meant to say, the mayor asked the change made by per Alan Lubke. Brilliant as usual. No, I'm just fussing here, but that's an incomplete sentence, and it should be completed to state what the mayor actually said. Maybe you could say what you said right now, and then it could be placed in today's minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any comments on the minutes?
Through the chair, though I appreciate Mr. Lepke coming up to refine the minutes, they are action minutes. They are an interpretation by the city clerk, who's elected by the people, to transcribe what is stated, and not every word, as I've learned over the years, every word will be placed, nor is it placed exactly as in the way I said it. So I think there needs to be an understanding between both and all sides on that.
Well, I'm not sure I understand what approval means, why we have the approval, because we don't even get the gist. I can understand the spelling. I mean, let it go forward. However, the comment by the mayor, I believe, is significant. I mean, that's an action, that's a decision. The mayor said something that he wants to have done. And if it cannot be corrected, if these minutes can't be corrected, then let us put them in today's comments on the minutes and give the mayor a chance to say exactly what he said, or have the clerk put it in, find out what it was, and put it in the minutes of this meeting.
Mr.
City
Mayor, if
Attorney.
I might make a suggestion, I think we can certainly understand that the clerk will provide the minutes and have them be as accurate and intelligible as possible, and we understand that that's been done. I don't think there's any reason for any of the council members to repeat comments they previously made. Mr. Lubke's made his points, and I think we'll make sure the minutes are, in fact, intelligible and reflect what occurred at the meeting.
All right, thank you, City Attorney.
That, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. That would be, this comment by the mayor will be made clear?
Yes.
All right, you've heard comments on the minutes, changes, errors, omissions. Seeing none, they will be approved as submitted. Consent calendar. All items are considered routine or implemented earlier council action and may be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion unless requested by a council member, citizen, or staff. Any action on the consent calendar?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion second on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 8, public hearings. Notices have been published, posted, and mailed. We're going to hold the public hearing, waive the first reading, and introduce ordinance repealing and reenacting Chapter 10.12 of the San Bruno Municipal Code related to wastewater quality control.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This is a public hearing to introduce the FOG ordinance, that's fats, oils, and grease. As you might remember, that was discussed at the last meeting. The City Council directed staff to return that ordinance for introduction at today's meeting. And that ordinance is attached identical in version as the one that was attached to your last staff report. I would just take a moment to note that this ordinance is an important part, an important step in the city's program to reduce SSOs, sanitary sewer overflows. And later in the agenda, you'll hear a little more detailed presentation on that by our Public Services Director. So at this time, if there are no other questions, I recommend that the council open the public hearing, take any comments on the FOG ordinance, and then if there are no other changes, to recommend introduction of the ordinance.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions or comments before we open the public hearing for the city attorney? All right, we're going to open the public hearing. Would anyone like to speak on this item? If we close the public hearing, you're going to be precluded from talking on this again. You should know that. Action.
Move to close public hearing.
Second.
Motion second on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Public hearing is closed. Discussion or action?
No other discussion, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to waive the first reading.
Second?
Motion and second to waive the first reading. On the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And introduce the ordinance repealing and reenacting Chapter 10.12 of the San Bruno Municipal Code.
Vice Mayor Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item number 9 is public comment on items not on the agenda. It is the council's policy to refer matters raised in this forum to staff for investigation and/or action where appropriate. The Brown Act prohibits the council from discussing or acting upon any matter not agendized pursuant to state law. Would anyone like to address the council under public comment? Did you want to address the council, Mr. Lepke?
Oh, yes, I do.
All right.
I was wondering what the city clerk was doing with those forms that she had placed at the table that said you to put your name, street address, and the general topic and specific question with which you want to address the council. Mine isn't very clear because the pen I was trying to use that was at the desk didn't work.
Okay.
My turn?
Your turn.
Okay, my name is Alan Lupke. I live on Fleetwood Drive. Mr. Mayor, I live on Fleetwood Drive. I saw on television the film of the 25th anniversary of the Senior Center. It was wonderful. And I thought it was also wonderful to see Mr. Chris Pallas there at that meeting. I would like to see that film edited and give the respect that's due to Mr. Pallas by correcting the spelling of his name. I had always known and seen it up there many times that it was spelled P-A-L-L-A-S. That's what I think it is. Yet the underline of his name during the film is spelled P-A-L-A-C-E, as in the King's Palace. Now I would like to see that man who served this city with such dignity and grace go down in history, in the history of a film made with him as the center, have his name spelled correctly. As long as I've got 56 seconds left, speaking of Fleetwood Drive, today and every Tuesday on Fleetwood Drive is Garbage Day. Many years ago, a lady named Donna McGeegan was asked by her 2 little children, what is that man, why is that man holding up that sign and standing in the middle of the street asking for money or food? And she explained to them what it was, and that day after, and now her kids are in college, every Tuesday she starts at one end of Fleetwood Drive and goes to the other end of Fleetwood Drive and picks up packages of food for the people at St. Bruno's church that come there for breakfast. And she's been doing that, as I say, since her children were very tiny, and now they're in college.
Would anyone else like to address the council under public comment? All right. Item number 10, conduct of business. Receive a report and provide direction to staff regarding the potential closure of Memory Lane. We do have speaker cards. If you would like to speak, please fill out a card so the clerk can give it to us, and we'll call you by name. And I'm going to give, if you're going to speak individually, I'll give you 2 minutes. If you have a group speaker, we'll give you 5. Who would like to start?
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
we have a short staff report first.
You're
and
right.
then we'll be calling
Went
for
right over
public
that.
comment thereafter.
All right.
A little antsy.
All right. we'll give folks just a minute or two to fill out those speaker cards. Thank you for doing that. And while they're doing that, I'll just introduce myself to the members of the public. My name is Mark Zaffarano. I'm the city attorney. I'll be delivering a little presentation tonight, along with my colleague Laura Russell, who's one of the associate planners at the city. Before we start, I'd like to start by thanking all of you for coming to our meeting tonight. I understand that you all have busy schedules, you all have things that you'd probably rather be doing, and we appreciate your taking your time to engage with both city staff and the city council on this important issue. I'd also like to thank the staff that's sitting next to me and behind me, all of whom have been involved in one way or another over the past year to year and a half in the memory lane issue. All of the department heads have had something to do with the staff report that you see in front of you. If you haven't taken the time to read through it, I recommend that you do. There's a lot of information in there that took staff a lot of work and effort to compile, and we're very pleased that we could present it to you tonight. So before we start, I have just a couple of housekeeping matters. I'll be doing a short oral report, as I mentioned, with Laura Russell, our associate planner. And after that, we'll be opening it up to the public so public can comment on the issues that we've raised. There are copies available back here of the actual surveys that some of you may have submitted to the city. Thank you for doing that if you did. We want to make sure that we keep all of your personal information just that, personal. So we did take the liberty of redacting identifying information such as names, addresses, emails, telephone numbers from those surveys before making them public, but they are here and available otherwise. And also available today are a series of what we'll call school loop postings, which is a mechanism for parents to communicate with their school that was just provided to us today by the attorney, Mr. Corey, on behalf of Parkside Intermediate School. And that was a series of postings that was done sometime back in December. And so we appreciate receiving those today, and those are also available. We did also redact any names and personal information from those emails as well. If you haven't filled out a speaker slip and you do want to speak, please do so. Now's your time to do that. We want to make sure that everybody has time to talk and to tell us what you think. We want to hear everything you have to say. It's also okay to say that you agree or disagree with a prior speaker who maybe have made the same point that you did. We'd also request that everybody in the audience be courteous to each other and refrain from calling out, clapping, and doing those things, because it is difficult for the television to keep track of that, and we also understand that we're here in front of a television audience. So with that, let me begin. All right, there we go. I'm a novice at using the clicker here, so please excuse me if I make a mistake while I'm going through this. Tonight's presentation will focus on 4 topics, and they're up on the board there for you. What is memory lane? Why are we discussing it tonight? How is it used? And what are the options that we should think about with respect to the lane? So first, I'd like to just take a second and tell you a little bit about what memory lane actually is. And some of you probably know it's an east-west pedestrian bicycle-only way that's owned by the city. So all 3 segments are owned in fee title by the city. There are public utility easements under the lane, and notably there's a sewer line that runs between Linden and Poplar in that easement. So as all of you probably know, it runs roughly perpendicular to El Camino from Elm to Poplar to Linden and then across the Grace Honda parking lot. So here's a little bit of history. It was established in 1939, quite a long time ago, for public use as a pedestrian walk. That's what the subdivision map says. And it's mentioned in our general plan as a pedestrian emphasis zone. And it's also mentioned in our draft transit corridor plan, which suggests that the lane be enhanced for additional pedestrian and bicycle use to make that east-west connection to the downtown. And as you'll see later tonight, the lane is in fact used by many residents. So in December of 2010, we had 14 residents who lived adjacent to the lane, and Grace Honda owner requested that the lane be permanently closed. And they sent the city council some letters indicating that there was vandalism, graffiti, fights, drugs, alcohol, and other negative behavior. So staff spent a great deal of time researching their concerns and developed some alternatives. And some of the things that the city did in response to those concerns is they implemented increased maintenance of the lane. I actually walked there the other day and it looked great. There was no garbage anywhere or any other indication. The police department continued to do passing checks, and they actually intensified that effort within the last year, and heightened officer awareness of the problems that were occurring there. In October 2011, you might remember, the mayor appointed a subcommittee to meet with the concerned residents, the individuals who expressed some concern, as well as the Grace Honda owner. And that subcommittee, which consisted of the mayor and then Vice Mayor Mr. Salazar, met twice with those residents. And in between that time, city staff also worked to develop some additional alternatives. The subcommittee at that time, after having met with those concerned residents, considered a temporary trial closure. Also indicated they wanted to survey a larger group of people because we only had a small number of residents in front of us, and then return the matter to the council for a full discussion. And that's why we're here tonight. So at this point, what I'd like to do is turn the presentation over to Laura Russell, our associate planner, to discuss the survey results. She'll go through those with you, and then I'll pick it up at the end.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, and members of the public. Staff conducted a survey to get the residents' opinions and understand better how they use memory lane. The survey area was bounded by Genevan, El Camino Real, Crystal Springs, and Oak Avenue, as shown in the map on the screen. It really was just a survey of the immediate neighborhood around the lane. It did not include other potential users. For example, there may be families living in the Bel Air neighborhood that may use it to reach destinations to the west, but we were looking for the opinions and the usage of those residents that live close by. We received 134 surveys by the February 22nd deadline, which is a 34% response rate, and we do consider that to be quite high for a community survey such as this. The survey form itself is attached to the staff report and available to the public, and we would like to note that the survey did not include arguments on either side of the issue. We were seeking individual opinions from the residents about their experience using the lane and also how much they use it. We did also receive 5 surveys after the survey deadline. So turning now to some of the results of the survey. 81% of people that completed the survey said that they use memory lane. The usage is pretty consistent across the 3 blocks. So we asked residents also how often they use it per month on average, and this was a fill-in question, and then staff grouped them together according to the usage. And we found that the usage was quite high, with 58 households using it 1 to 9 times per month, 19 households using it 10 to 19 times per month, and 28 households using it 20 times or more. We also did have several people report that they use it every day. Residents were asked where they're going when they use memory lane. What are the most common destinations? So people filled in multiple destinations, so we took a count, kind of a tally, of the places that they frequently go. The most common destinations were commercial, such as shopping, with 54 people citing that as a destination, or Walgreens with 17 people. There were also a lot of people that went downtown and to some downtown restaurants specifically. There was also a large number of people, 42, that use it for walking, jogging, or for walking their dogs, so for exercise or recreation. The bus and Caltrain were also common destinations. Memory lane is also used as a common path for Parkside students. As we understand it, they walk down Niles, Clark, and then Memory Lane to connect to El Camino Real. Staff did 3 site visits from approximately 2:30 to 3:30 in the afternoon, which is the time when students are walking home from school. Staff observed up to 60 students using the lane each day. It took about 12 minutes for the students to walk through. So from the time that the first group of students started to walk through until the last group of students was about 12 minutes. There were also adults that happened to be using the lane at the same time as the students, and when staff talked to those adults, they did favor keeping the lane open. So this chart describes the results of the question, do residents support closure? So this chart is also an attachment to the staff report. And residents were asked if they support closure, and they were asked by individual blocks. We didn't know if the results would be different by the different blocks. And they turned out to be fairly consistent across the 3 blocks. So if I could take a second to explain this. The blue on the left are people that definitely support closure. Yellow are people that probably support closure. Green are people that probably do not support closure. And then purple are the people that would like it to stay open. So do they support closure? No. So as an example, in block 1, 6% definitely would want to see it close, 15% probably, 9% probably not, and 70% would like it to stay open. So if we combine the people that definitely support closure and probably support closure, we see that up to 21% of respondents overall would favor closure of at least 1 block, or they likely would. So 21% of respondents would like to see at least some portion closed. These residents reported graffiti, vandalism, loitering, alcohol use, trash, and fights, among some other concerns. Some people were concerned in their comments that closing the lane could actually lead to more problems in the future, and they did ask what would happen if closure were to go forward. In the comments, some residents also expressed that memory lane has outlived its usefulness, and even though some people use it and found it charming, they understand why adjacent neighbors may be concerned. So again, when we combine the numbers for all 3 blocks, we see that about 79% of residents favor keeping it open. 10 of the respondents specifically noted that it is used by seniors in the area, as well as people with disabilities. There are also many long-term residents that noted they have used it for many years, as much as 25 or 30 years. Many people consider it to be an amenity, as a shortcut, and also as a part of San Bruno history. Several residents noted that they would like to know more about the concerns and wanted to understand what the issues were that were happening in their neighborhood. They also expressed concern for the neighbors that live immediately on the lane. But overall, many people did comment that they like using memory lane. So I'd like to turn it back now over to the city attorney for additional comments.
Thank you very much, and I'll close just by noting a couple of things. We were, of course, very concerned when the residents, some of the residents told us that they had experienced a number of problems on the lane. And so one of the only sources of information that city staff has about that are reports to the police department. So our staff did an extensive analysis of every single call for service to the San Bruno Police Department from 2006 to 2011 from all of the 14 residents who sent in letters expressing concern about the lane. And what we found was that over that period of 2006 to 2011, there were a total of 44 calls generated by those residents, average of about 6 per year. We're also actually pleased to report that in 2011, there were only 4 calls for service to the police department. And it seems that the redoubled efforts of the police department staff may have helped in reducing those numbers, and that those efforts may have paid off. We also noted that of those 44 calls over the 7-year period, all 44 of those calls were generated by 5 households out of the 14 that sent letters to the city council. And we also wanted to look at what those calls were about. And the vast majority, almost 2/3, were graffiti. We understand that was a major concern. Vandalism, 20% of the calls from those 5 households indicated there was some vandalism. And then 7% had to do with loitering or unsavory activities, people standing around in the lane, drinking, and those kinds of things. We had limited data about when the calls came in, understanding that when the call came in doesn't necessarily mean when the activity occurred. But we found that about 80% of the calls came in the afternoon hours between 1:30 and about 6:45. So that's the best data that we could find from the police department regarding all of those calls for service since 2006. So I'd just like to close by talking about some of the options for memory lane that are under consideration. So one of the alternatives is to make some improvements to the lane, and some of those options include either fencing and or vegetation that would provide additional separation of the public space, which is memory lane, from the private space. And I think I want to pause for a second and note that there is a lot of complexity about this particular issue, because as you know, some of the homes have a zero lot line. The wall is right up on the lane, and other homes do have a fence and then have a little bit of a setback. So those conditions vary not only block by block, but also vary among the houses on the same block. So it's a little bit of a challenge to try to figure out exactly what could be done in terms of improvements. One of the other things that staff spent quite a bit of time on is some sort of enhanced monitoring of the lane. I think you've already seen that some of that has already paid off by only 4 calls for police service in 2011. And certainly city staff can consider doing that, or consider some other combination of monitoring, of adult monitoring of the lane. And then finally, there was some discussion about some street improvements where the lane intersects with a public street. So there was a complaint that sometimes kids run out into the street, and it might be a safety hazard. So we also looked at making some improvements with some signage, maybe a little bit of additional red curb on both sides, so that way both the pedestrians and the vehicles have a little bit more of a sight distance. And we could also do some additional striping or other things on the actual roadway surface. So a number of those things were considered. Another option, as I discussed before, and something that the subcommittee considered after speaking with the residents that attended 2 of its meetings, is some sort of a trial closure to see if there was a decrease in the number of calls for service or a decrease in the number of complaints. So that was considered, and you can certainly talk about that more this evening. I think that the staff would need to do some additional research on what sort of physical barrier would actually work, given the configuration of the lane and how it's set up differently from block to block. So that's something we'd have to think about. I'd also wanted to note, important to note, that the 14 residents who came to the city, did request that the lane be permanently closed. So for tonight, that ends my staff report. We have an opportunity, if the council wants to ask us some questions, we're happy to try to answer them. We may not be able to answer every single question that either you or maybe members of the public have tonight, and if that's the case, we'll certainly take them down and come back at a subsequent meeting and give you the answers. We'd certainly like to hear from everyone who have waited patiently through my rather lengthy presentation. I apologize. We'd recommend that the City Council direct the staff to explore one or more of the alternatives, or consider additional review at a subsequent meeting, or discontinue consideration of closure if that's your desire as well. So with that, I'll end my presentation and take any questions.
Well, thank you, Mark and Laura, for a pretty concise and detailed report. Michael and I were on the subcommittee, still are on the subcommittee, but I'd like to hear unless Michael has something specific, what the rest of the council would like to discuss. Do you have any questions?
So if there are any questions, we'd be happy to take those now. Otherwise, you can open it up to the public.
Michael?
No, I don't have anything specific.
Okay. As I said, we have quite a crowd here tonight, so I'm going to limit the comments to 2 minutes. I'd like you to say your name and just your street, not your address. And the first person to speak was, it looks like May Yasser. May here?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to go first?
I certainly do.
All right,
Okay.
there you go.
Well, I didn't get a comment card, George.
Yeah, that's why I came today.
Okay. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, my name is George Corey. I am at 700 El Camino in Millbrae. I represent each and every owner who lives on Memory Lane. I represent 2 owners who live 1 door off Memory Lane. I speak tonight for Honda car dealership in part, Ms. Huma Yeaman is here. Her attorney could not be here, but asked that I make the formal representations for her. And then, after I complete that, each of the homeowners will, if the mayor would permit it to be done that way, will come up and point out to you where they live. These are names on the chart here. Where they live on memory lane, and help you understand what the problem is. Now, I did not participate in the survey. Nobody asked me what questions should be on it. I did not see the results until early yesterday morning. But if anyone had asked me, will you prepare a set of questions for this survey, I would have said, I think you only need one question. Would you favor closing memory lane if you knew that every single resident on that little street feels threatened, in terror, has had their windows broken, graffiti on their walls, condoms in the street, everything as badly as it can get? Would you favor closing memory lane if they asked you to do so? I feel, knowing the people of San Bruno, and I know many of them, that you wouldn't see an 80% against closing. You'd see 99 and 9/10% closing it. Nothing else makes sense to me. So, however you prepare the survey, however you do it, I feel it needs to make more sense in relation to the goal that is being sought. Now, there is another organization who had not even been mentioned tonight, and they attended the meetings with the subcommittee. The school from whence all these young children come and create the havoc that occurs to my clients desperately wants it closed. And they are here tonight to tell you so. And that is so because it's an uncontrollable situation. Not for the casual walker who goes shopping sometime when school's out, but if you live there, you live in dread. That's the story you're going to hear. And then we had told the council committee this before. You have an auto dealership there, probably the second or third greatest tax income to the city of San Bruno. I don't know if they're bigger than Tanforan or not, but they're big. Part of memory lane runs right through their car dealership. They, like every other dealership, and this has already been explained, and this is what Ms. Yemen asked me to tell you tonight, they have been instructed by Honda that they must rebuild their facility, that the scope of the rebuilding must cover that space that is now memory lane. If they don't do so, they cannot stay in that location. And that this city stands the risk of losing a taxpayer of that magnitude because it's not willing to close memory lane. Wait, excuse me. It may not be willing to close memory lane. Those of you who understand anything at all about the car business know that a great deal of the matters on the facilities are dictated by the company, that is the manufacturer, not by the dealership itself. It is not at liberty to build where it wants or the way it wants or even the form or shape it wants. It will meet certain mandates. In this case, Ms. Yemen is here to represent to you that they have told her that the footprint must cover that area, which is memory lane. Right. Now, what you have in front of you is little memory lane, 8 homes on that lane, a 10-foot wide, otherwise very attractive little stroll. But if you live there, and if people throw rocks through your windows, I think Sam brought some rocks with him tonight that have gone through his windows. When you find things on the ground that you are not happy to find, when your house is graffitied, when it is egged, you start to feel it's not such a comfortable neighborhood to be in. And when the school officials beg that the lane be closed because that is a place where the kids go to fight. And if you were to look at the survey that was presented with the children talking, you will see that they understand that that's a place where people go to fight from the school. And I'll let the school take it from there because they have their own feeling about the lane. Now, there's one other photo I'm sorry, a photograph I'd like to show you. And I'm sorry I don't have the fancy, what do you call that?
Excuse me, George?
PowerPoint.
George, we want to wrap it up here pretty quick. We have a lot of speakers.
What I wanted to show you was that here's the dealership. There's the school. You took 400 homes for a not even a full long block of memory lane.
People can't hear you.
Oh, yeah. Forgive me, Jim. Let me come around here and say it all over again. What you have on the photograph are about probably 600 homes. When whoever made this survey made it for 400 homes to cover this 2 small block area and expect people anywhere to know anything about the situation seems to me unreasonable and unrealistic. Unrealistic, not unreasonable.
All right, we're going to ask the people on these
You want me
cards.
to hurry up?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
All right, I'll hurry up.
If you represent a group, you're supposed to have 5 minutes, so you're way over, but this is important.
You know, we
so-
got a whole group of people. We've
And
had
that's
2
why they're
long
going to talk
subcommittee
individually.
meetings.
Right, let's get rolling here.
So, from here, each of the homeowners will come, and with your permission, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to have those 8 homeowners who are most affected be the first people to speak.
Well,
You got your,
If they have a card, I don't know exactly. It
well, I
just
can
says,
have them come up,
yeah.
let them line up here, or let them go. You're giving them only 2 minutes. I was told yesterday I could have 3 for each person. Will all the homeowners come forward, please? Just line up, and then you'll take it everyone one at a time. The first one will be Sam Azar. He's the gentleman who brought this case to me some time ago.
Mr. Mayor, council members.
Sam, excuse me, did you fill out a card?
I did.
You did, okay. I'm just trying to weed these out of here so we don't do double duty here. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Sam Azar, one of the ones that are affected by this. My home butts Memory Lane. I lived there for 35 years. I grew up in San Bruno, went to all the schooling in San Bruno, from Allen to Parkside to Cappuccino to Skyline. The things that have been going on for the last probably 7 or 8 years, it's something that I don't think anybody else in San Bruno has been. Got it. Is it on?
Yeah.
The graffiti, watching the kids fight, cars in the middle of the night. The thing was brought up to the city about 3 years ago when I was told that that easement is used for handicapped, disabled people. It didn't have any handicapped ramps. 3 years ago they were placed there. There's no poles in the center of those things, so now we have vehicles run up and down every night, or those motorized Vespas, the scooters. The last incident that happened was when my 9-year-old mom was sitting in the kitchen, and I'm not talking about a rock. Everybody's saying a rock. This rock was thrown through the window the first time. The second time, the police, I asked them to take it to see if they can get fingerprints. They have it. The caretaker that takes care of my mom refused to work there. My mom will never step 1 foot in the kitchen to have her meal. She's afraid. I don't know what you guys are going to do. She's completely afraid of going in the kitchen. She's here. She could speak. She speaks a little English, she'll tell you. She's afraid. The gal that used to take care of her refused to work there anymore. The last incident was the egging of the house. So, you know, the attorney said that the calls of service went down. We're tired of calling. After the kids leave, we call 911. By the time the police, I'm not saying that they don't arrive, they do arrive, but the kids are gone. All the problems are already left, and we're asking for your help.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. My name is Mike Echeverry. I live on Linden Avenue on the southeast corner of Memory Lane. I've lived in this house for 13 years, and over the 13 years, I've witnessed a slow deterioration of Memory Lane. Recently, I personally witnessed the following illegal acts: drug use, public urination, graffiti both on the fence lines that line the alley and on my house. Sexual acts by minors. Most recently, my house has been egged 3 times in the last 4 months. Approximately 1 year ago, I witnessed a male juvenile suspect kick his foot through my fence, causing 2 wood panels to break in half. I chased after the suspect and was able to hold him until San Bruno police arrived to take him into custody. There have been countless unreported incidents to the police department where items such as trash, rocks, sports equipment, and even a scooter were hurled into my backyard. I've personally taken on the responsibility of walking through the alley on a weekly basis and painting over any graffiti that has been left on the fence during the week. These are some of the incidents that all of us who live adjacent to Memory Lane have had to endure. All of us in the area live with the question, what's next? I personally fear for the safety of my family, my neighbors, and my pet. I find it hard to believe that there is another place in the city of San Bruno that has a greater concentration of criminal mischief. Some could argue that the alley was there long before I bought my house and I should have known what I was getting into. But I bought my house knowing that there was always a chance that something could happen on any given street. What I didn't sign up for was when I bought my house was the constant flow of criminal mischief that permeates from Memory Lane. The fact is that individuals who are looking to cause trouble know that Memory Lane is sheltered from view and an easy place to get away from criminal activity. My neighbors and I have worked with City Hall and the Police Department to come up with solutions to these issues, but unfortunately our efforts have yielded negative results. It is unfortunate, but I believe it's time to close Memory Lane. I know this may cause inconvenience to some of our community who use Memory Lane as a cut-through, but I also believe you, as City Council members, hold a responsibility and a priority to help ensure that all San Bruno residents can live in peace and safety in their homes. As it stands right now, we who live next to Memory Lane do not feel safe, and we respectfully request your assistance in restoring our right to live in peace. I'd like to thank you in advance for your consideration of this matter.
Thank you. Carol, is there a light I can see as 2 minutes, or is there a light I can see? Or? Oh, well. Slide it over. Thank you. Perfect.
Can you see that?
Perfect.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor and Councilman, my name is Gary Souza. Excuse me, I'm a little nervous. I've lived next door to Memory Lane for about 60 years. I've used Memory Lane since it was a dirt path. So why am I so adamant about closing it? A small percentage of the school children are behaving in an unacceptable manner. I cannot use Memory Lane. I'm there, excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm intimidated by the boys and the girls' looks, actions, the way they use the 4-letter word to me, to each other. Their attitude is they can do or say anything that they please, and we can't do anything about it. The destruction of property, painting, tagging fences, breaking the fences, throwing rocks at property and each other. It's escalated to boulders through windows. They trash the alleyway with food, condoms, paper, alcohol bottles, cans, general garbage. We need to close Memory Lane before the taxpayers have to pay for lawsuits for property damage or worse, life. If you think that I was a bit overboard, ask my neighbors. They broke their kitchen window 3 times. Let's please close this before it ends on a bad note. Thank you very much.
Just point, Joe, because unless you speak to the microphone, we're not going to know. So.
This house right here. All right. I have the same
problems, house being egged all the time, fence boards getting kicked in.
Joe, excuse me, start again for the benefit
I
of
have the same problems with the fence boards being kicked in, houses being egged. Before I let my kids play out in the backyard, I have to go in the backyard and take a look around and make sure that there's nothing out there that they're gonna, you know, whatever, because there are all kinds of stuff comes over the fence. I had to remove my windows on the ground floor because I'm tired of those getting broken in and everything too. So I just stuck them over. Pretty much same thing, tired of the vandalism, tired of everything. Sometimes I'm out in the backyard when the kids come through and they're bouncing up and down. I don't really want to say anything to them because then they'll come and retaliate against my house. So I just kind of let them go, and I've made numerous complaints, and same thing, nothing really ever seems to go on. A little while back, somebody dumped like a whole big thing of oil down the alleyway. I called it in. Somebody comes out and looks at it and goes, oh, well, gets in a car and drives away. Nothing got cleaned up. I get somebody out to clean it up. Goes, well, I don't know who to call. So nothing happened, so I had to wait for the rains to come before it all washed down. And in the meantime, those days before the rains came, everybody was walking through it, tracking it through, all up and down the alleyway. It's just a mess, and we'd really like to have something done with it. So those are my concerns. Thank you.
Hi, to the council. I'm Ron Gray. I live at 394 Elm. My house is on Memory Lane. My house was built in 1906, and the Memory Lane was created in 1939. So I was there before the Memory Lane. Is it a walkway? Is it an easement? Is it a passageway? Question. But I too have the same problem with graffiti and all. In fact, I have been subpoenaed to go to court because I caught kids doing graffiti. Now I have to take time off work to go to court and swear that this kid did graffiti. But your survey is very, very good, but it's still a little weighted. 12 minutes for the kids to get from point A to point B, but they still have to cross at Jennifer. And so there's no time saving for them to walk through Memory Lane, as far as the same as no time saved to go to Walgreens. So closing part of Memory Lane makes a lot of sense. I would be very happy to close Memory Lane because I have the same problem that all my neighbors have. Thank you.
My name is Vince Bravo. I live at 398 Elm. I'm right next door to Ron. Ron and I have a shared common issue, which is that both of our houses are directly on the alleyway. There's no barrier between the alleyway and the side of our house. The one of the main problems that we've had, we continue to have at our house, is 24-hour knocking on the side of our house. Children coming through the way, adults walking through the way. When they knock on the walls of the house, they're knocking on the walls. When they knock on the walls of the alley, they're knocking on the walls of our house. No matter what hour, day or night, we repeatedly hear noise in the alleyway, echoing. Unfortunately, I'm a little surprised that there's been 4 phone calls in 2011. 3 of them must have been from me. One in which I stopped a fight of 7th grader girls who were throwing around the F word, and 35 children stopped in the alleyway right next to my house. I stopped the girls from fighting. I deal with children on a regular basis daily. I'm a school teacher, and so I have no problem talking to kids. However, I've never met such disrespect from children before, throwing around words at me, homophobic language here in the alleyway right in front of my own house, things that can't be tolerated here in San Bruno. On top of that, I've also had the side door of my house bashed in twice. It cost me about $300 to repair it the second time. When I asked the principal of the school as well as the police if we could do a little research into who possibly could have done this, I was told that it's a difficult group and it's hard to figure out such things. Working with children for 13 years, I know that we can get to the bottom of figuring out who causes crimes. Kids are quick to snitch on each other. I definitely recommend the closure of this alley. I'm also surprised to see that disabled people use the alley. At 398, between 398, my house and Ron's house, there's no disabled access to the alley there. People would need to use either my driveway or Ron's driveway, which is extremely steep and dangerous, if they wanted to use it and are in a wheelchair. Thanks.
Thank you.
Is Chelsea Bullard. I live on 401 Poplar Avenue.
Could you say your name again, please?
Chelsea?
Chelsea.
Yeah. I agree with pretty much what everyone else has said. I've seen numerous fights, graffiti, vandalizing of the homes. I especially fear for my pets because I've come home and seen broken bottles in my backyard. And everyone's afraid to, say anything to the kids because they're afraid that they're going to retaliate against their homes, which I completely understand. So I'm in support of the closure of the alley.
Hello, my name is May Yasser, and I live on Clark Avenue. I received one of your notices for the Maiden Lane, and I'm got curious because that Maiden Lane always concerned me. So I spoke to this weekend and found out what has been doing to my neighbors, and I'm fully in support of closing it down. And I personally experience kids that do come down from Parkside. They do fight, and then they take off. They fight, and they don't want to get busted, so they run down Clark, which is a steep hill, and they get cut right through the alley, and all of a sudden they disappear on El Camino. Where they go, God knows. I had to chase a couple of them down in my car. And once I got to that Maiden Lane, I had to go all the way around, and by that time I got to the other side, they were gone. And then I lived in San Bruno for 16 years, and literally really close to Maiden Lane. And I walk. And I've probably used it 3 times in 16 years. And it's sure enough, it is not pretty. It's ugly. You do see condoms used, and the graffiti, and what do you call it? The asphalt is broken, and it's not clean, and there's a lot of holes in it. So I don't see what's the purpose of keeping it open. It was built back in 1939. I could see a lot of people walked in, and they might needed it. Or we're in 2012, and all it's promoting is a lot of gang activity, fights, and what my neighbors are going for. It should totally be closed down. I totally agree with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Toomey.
Hi, my name's Patricia Toomey. I live at 385 Elm Avenue, near the entrance to block number 1 of Memory Lane. I can see the entrance from my living room window, and even though my property does not abut the lane, I completely support my neighbors. I can see the nuisance activity from my living room, and I think it presents a safety concern for our neighborhood. I'm kind of interested the way that the lane has been characterized as some sort of essential pedestrian route for people to access downtown or access business. I've lived in San Bruno my entire life in the Huntington Park subdivision, and I never even knew Memory Lane existed until, as an adult, I bought my house on Elm Avenue. It's not essential to anything. It's not a shortcut. It's a convenience, but when weighed against the safety concerns, I really think it's probably something that has outlived its usefulness. If the council does feel very strongly that it should stay open, maybe at the very least this is an opportunity to fast track some of the beautification enhancements that seem to be in the future. Maybe that's something that we could do now. And just as a final comment, I noticed in the staff report, one of the comments said that the city should stop wasting money sending surveys on issues like this, and I just completely disagree with that. I think this is really important, and I wanted to thank staff for getting input from the neighborhood so that we at least, regardless of the decision, have a chance to say our piece. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Dietrich.
Hi.
My name is Amit.
Oh, excuse me.
Sorry.
I'll have to call on you. This man has the podium.
Yes, I believe I did this right now.
I'll
I'm
call
sorry
you up.
about that.
I'll call you up. Tom?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and Mayor and Council. My name is Tom Dietrich, and my wife and I live at 417 Cypress Avenue. What I would like to say is that closing down Memory Lane is not going to change the behavior of these children. They're going to enact these kind of crimes and graffiti and bad behavior in other places. I fully believe this is a police matter, and it's a matter for the school to attend somehow to the behavior of these children. I do not see why the city of San Bruno cannot allocate officers on a regular basis to patrol that area on bicycles when school gets out. And I know for a fact that children who are confined all day in school, if they're released off in numbers, they're going to show off to one another, they're going to fight, they're going to skirmish. Of course they're going to behave badly. If police officers were there on a regular basis, just on bicycles, casually patrolling that area, I think it would defeat a lot of the harm that would come about every day children are released back into life from school. It's a wonderful release. So that's my solution. And I want to apologize to my neighbors who would like to close it down, because honestly, if the police and the school can't work on this and come up with a solution, this is an outrage. The stories that they've told here, they're horrific. Nobody should have to undergo this kind of abuse and torment and having rocks thrown through their window. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Angela, how do you go?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Angela Diego, principal of Parkside School. And perfect timing to address the last speaker. Parkside School has worked very hard to deter the children from this behavior. Unfortunately, we have not been able to stop the entire problem. We act in loco parentis for students that leave school to their homes. When we do hear about incidents, we are there. In fact, we are proactive. Mr. Little and I are known as Starsky and Hutch. We are in our car after school. We drive the city. We try to be proactive and stop any negative or illegal activities as possible. We also, if we hear of a fight, we know it's going to be at the lane. So we are here to advocate for the closure of this lane, Memory Lane. Memory Lane needs to be a memory, and that came from my office manager, because the calls do not go to the police department, they come to the school. Mr. Little and I receive many calls. We attend to them. Mr. Little can address how many students we have suspended and expelled. This is not tolerable behavior. We do not in any way condone children or teenagers behaving in this manner. What I need to say to the council is, shame on you for not shutting this lane already. Shame on you. If as a parent,
We want everybody to have their turn to speak, all right? I don't want to clear the room. So if we're going to have some outbursts, then that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. All right. Good for you. Do you want me to get the Sergeant at Arms to get you out of here? No. All right, thank you. Then let the speaker speak. Let the speaker speak. You have the right to speak when I call you to the podium. All right.
Sir, we're just trying to be courteous. We're just trying to make sure that everybody's courteous to each other during the process. Everyone's going to get a chance to speak.
Trying to follow. Thank you. Angela? Sorry.
Okay, sorry. As a parent, when I was raising my children, and have been a parent for 30-some years now, and raised a lot of children through schools, when I knew there was a danger I deterred the danger. For example, if the bathroom door was left open, you are leaving a potential problem. Child could drown. Why not shut the bathroom door and not have the problem exist? The same, it's a simple analogy, why not with the lane? I have begged for this lane to be closed. Since Mr. Little and I came to Parkside School, we have done everything in our power to make Parkside be a safe place and a place that will better San Bruno. We have worked very hard to do that. Drive up and see the new school. It's absolutely gorgeous. We did that to enhance school property. One final thought. I read a book, a research book. It's called The Tipping Point. A very famous mayor, Mayor Giuliani, in New York, took it upon himself to make change happen. Change is not pretty sometimes, and change needs to be done quickly other times. And in his tipping point, he decided that he was going to make New York a better place. He put police officers all over the place. He closed many ports, many alleys. Whatever it took, Mayor Giuliani did, and he made significant change. I'm asking the council to make this change tonight. And I'm asking you to do it as proactive adults to keep children safe. Do not give them a place that they are already familiar with and plan to have fights with. Deter them, make them move. It's a psychological tool that many people use in education and law enforcement. I beg you, please. I am sorry to the neighbors that haven't been inflicted. We have talked many times. I respond immediately. Mr. Little can tell you how many times we respond, how many students we have suspended, how many times we have spoke to parents and children. We are active in this. We would not be here otherwise. We are seeking for higher powers to help us. Close this lane.
Angela, I have a question for you. The city did a survey, but we received up here, it looks like Mrs. Adiego, Mr. Little, and the San Bruno Police Department want to know when, do you know, did this go out to students, parents, or through a network?
This survey was conducted at actually your request. You sent the police chief to my office to speak to us about the lane. Mm-hmm. Part of that was to gather information, outreach from students and parents. We have a vehicle at Parkside that is called School Loop. It goes out to every single parent in the Parkside community, and we ask the question of what students and parents thought. There were many, many answers to the question. Children were even appalled at the behavior of their fellow students. We know that there are good people in the world, and there are people that suffer and have troubles and act out. Those students also told you that they wanted that lane to be monitored at minimum with cameras and to do something because they are afraid to walk through that lane. Students go there to fight. It is a known fighting alley. And I want to clarify, it's not just Parkside students. It's Cappuccino students, it's Taylor students, it's students from the whole entire area. That's a well-known place. And if we change the place, move the location, do something, it's not that many steps from the lane to Genevan or Cypress. If you put students on outside perimeters where more public attention is drawn to them, less will happen. Police officers can get there faster. More people can be witnesses. And more people can deter this kind of behavior. We're working on it from the inside of our school. Let's work together as a city and be a village that raise proper children. This is our future. I want students to grow up to be productive citizens. That's what we work on. We just got our scores back. 56 to 58% of our students are now reading at above college level. There are minimum students that need help. There are minimum students in the world where crime is. So help those by giving them not the place to fight, but moving them around.
Thank you. Mr. Little, did you wish to speak also?
My name is Dan Little. I'm the assistant principal at Parkside Intermediate School. Mrs. Adiego stated that we are trying to be proactive as much as possible with the students. If a community member contacts our school, we ask them why they have not contacted the police, and quite honestly what they tell us is they don't want to be retaliated against if it comes to an arrest or some sort of court proceeding, so they contact us. Mrs. Adiego and I respond as quickly as we can to the location, but as you've heard many of the neighbors say, by the time anyone gets there, the children are gone. We have been all over the city trying to be proactive in terms of keeping children safe and the community safe from inappropriate behavior. Closing this lane would serve to help that purpose for every kid and for every community member in keeping San Bruno a very safe area and safe place for children and for adults. I would just implore you to consider closing the lane out of respect for the community and for the children. Also, I have recently in the news, there was a 10-year-old girl who went with a 5th grade student. She's a 5th grader, and went with another classmate, and they got in a fight in an alley close by to their school. That student then went home and later passed away from blunt force trauma to her head. I would hate to see that happen to any child here in San Bruno because of a fight that happens in the lane. And I have that article here to give to staff if they so choose. Thank you.
Thank you. John Minch.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, Council. I work for Grace Honda.
You can leave. There you go.
And which is, I guess, out towards the top here. We have a few issues as far as security of the lot. You have the fence, but then you have memory lane right in the middle of it, so folks can roll through. So of course, when school gets out, all the kids roll through the lot. And every day we tie balloons up on the cars and try to make it as attractive as possible. So at 3 o'clock, the kids roll through, and probably about 50, 60, sometimes more, it seems to me. And they yank the balloons off the cars as they go along and let them go, or they just, take the helium out and, talk funny voices. And you think, well, it's just balloons, but, it takes, time and money to blow the things up, put them on the cars, and then they just rip them off and let them go. This one time we got like this stronger string, just by mistake, and put them out there. And kids would grab them and pull, and you could see it hurt their hand, and then they were yanking to get the things off. But it's just, we don't want to call the police and, report all these incidences, but it's every day. It's the same thing over and over. And we also have had several cars keyed, which is about $1,500 a car, over 10 of them. We've had wheels falling off cars just recently. And I think the problem is they didn't come from El Camino, they came through the back, took the wheels off the car, took them back out the back, where it's dark because we try to keep the lights low in the back. The lights are more towards El Camino. So, they could just under cover of darkness take the wheels, away they go, and that was over $3,000 to replace the wheels. So for us, it's a big problem. Plus, when the kids get out of school and they're rolling across a lot, they don't just go down memory lane, they fan out and take up the whole lot, and it's not good for business. And again, I think as Mr. Corey mentioned, Honda wants us to build a new building. Basically we build a new building, new lot, we double our income. But the lane's a problem with Honda, so that's one of the issues.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was going to ask you too, you mentioned that Honda Motor Corporation, if you could step to the podium, please. Oh. Yeah. Honda Motor Corporation did ask you, to do certain things in order to expand. Could you get the city some documentation on that so that we could possibly support that?
Possibly. Maybe Homa could speak to that more than I could. She's the owner of Grace Honda, so if you don't mind.
No, that's fine.
Great.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. We have had issues, as Mr. John Minch mentioned, but we've had issues, the neighbors have had issues, we have had issues. The problem is that Vandalism continues, expenses are very high, and we are obligated also by American Honda to do the new image of Honda. And being that the memory lane cuts through the middle of the property, it makes it very, very difficult to do the new image and new building. And they're requesting, of course, to do a beautiful image, as they have requested many dealers, and they have, you know, we have to abide and we have to do that image for them. So, and for us, and of course for the neighborhood. I mean, you don't mind having a better building there, and our building is old and our property is old, and memory lane is in the middle. I like it very much. I appreciate it. I have kept it up to a degree that I could, and but American Honda is not satisfied. They want a new image. We are, as a matter of fact, we are obligated to do something by next year, and in about a year and a half, and we have to make that decision quickly because the remodel needs to start. And they're saying if you cannot give up the memory lane, we need to move on maybe to 101. So as taxpayers, I guess it would be difficult for the city of San Bruno to lose us. We hope that we can work something out so we could stay and remain. We've been there 30 years. We've been a good taxpayer, and we hope that we all understand that, you know, we need the business. We need San Bruno, and you need us. So we like to stay if that is something that we could do. But we need to do that image.
Okay.
For
No, I'm
American
just going
Honda.
to suggest that we are very concerned about the safety of our residents and people that use the lane and don't use the lane, but we're also very concerned about the economic vitality of our city going forward. So if we could get something from American Honda, you know, to you saying, hey, this is what we'd really like the ownership to do, just as an aside, I think the city would like to see that also. So we could try to help you along those lines.
Granted, we will
All right.
try to provide that for you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Could you ask for clarification? Are they going to rebuild the old building?
Well, let's talk about that. Thank you very much. Nate Martin.
Hi, I'm Nate Martin. I live at 441 Linden. The Dietrichs are actually my landlord. First, I just want to say that I feel for all the residents that live by the alley. I think I would probably have the exact same response if that was me. However, I mean, and I personally use it. I use a memory lane pretty much every day to walk my dog. I absolutely love walking up there. It's I actually like it because it's less busy than either Crystal Springs or Genevieve. And but I also see some of the problems. I see the garbage and the graffiti and stuff like that. So I basically, what I'd like to make is possibly a suggestion that instead of closing, maybe something can be done such as more lighting. I've noticed I usually have to walk my dog at 7, 8 p.m. and it's completely dark. There's no lights whatsoever on the alleyway. And, you know, of course, things are going to happen where it's dark and when people can't be seen. So maybe if we had some better lighting there, that could help cut down some of the incidents. And in addition, it seems to me from what I've been hearing that most of these things do seem to be happening right when school's letting out. So I just want to suggest again, more police presence right at that time, not waiting for a phone call, but waiting there at the lane. You could park a car, for example, just down on Linden and see all the way up most of at least one of the blocks, if not two. And that might be a good way to just prevent the incidents before they start. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron Gray. Okay, thank you. Looks like Jeffrey Shirtliff. Hope I pronounced that correctly.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to speak to the City Council. I'm very, very fond of Parkside Intermediate. I have 3 children who have gone there, one here in the audience. I'm very fond of the students who attend Parkside Intermediate. They are not different from other students. They have their energy and they have their shortcomings, but I'd like to say in defense of the Parkside Intermediate that that's a very small percentage. Most of the children are excellent. I'm concerned that the survey was not extended to Bel Air. Is there a good reason for that? The reason I question why the survey was not extended to Bel Air is I know many of the students coming to Parkside come from Bel Air. So of course, I assume that their families would want them to continue to walk from Bel Air to Parkside. And I think that's a really good thing for students to walk. My daughter walks to Cappuccino. Nextly, I know that the problem of graffiti, vandalism, loitering is a real problem for those residents, and I sympathize enormously. However, we need to remember that the same problems exist at Parkside Intermediate. At all the schools, there is vandalism, graffiti, and loitering. There's no reason to close Parkside Intermediate because of graffiti, vandalism, and loitering. Nextly, and really the main reason that I came here, is that public access to our community is absolutely essential. Absolutely essential. How could we ever, just fence it off? I think that's really a ridiculous notion, and I'm not overlooking the inconvenience that those adjacent neighbors have to Memory Lane. Serious problem. I commiserate with them. However, the public right to access, in my estimation, trumps all other concerns. Literally, all other concerns. If policing is necessary, good idea. If community involvement, as the resident said that he frequently comes out to paint graffiti, I think that's excellent. Community involvement, policing, lighting, enhancement with vegetation. All those things are wonderful.
Okay, you have to wrap it up here pretty quick.
Excuse me, I remember the minutes that you gave to this.
He was speaking for a group.
I recognize that. Once again, public access to the walkways and the streets and the public areas are essential.
Thank you. Heidi Beck.
Hi, I'm Heidi Beck. I live on Acacia Avenue. And I do walk Memory Lane a lot, have with my kids over the years. And I am just appalled at the behavior that some kids, teenagers are bullying the neighborhood into, bullying the city into closing a lane. I think that is just horrible that, that we are being held hostage to these kids. One of the speakers said, it's easy to find out what's going on at a junior high. I mean, the kids that do this kind of stuff, they talk about it, other kids talk about it. Why, these kids aren't being, why something isn't being done is appalling to me. And no wonder Parkside has the reputation it does. My kids went to Parkside. I know I've always in the past have said it's not as bad a school as people make it out to be. But, then you hear stuff like this and then you think wow, I guess it's a lot worse than when my kids went to school. But, that's only a few years ago. I'm wondering, because one of the speakers said, too, that they'd lived there quite some time and it had gotten worse in the last 6 or 7 years. So I'm wondering, is there anything like when the police station moved to Tanforan, did that make a difference? Because I live, on Acacia, and I used to see police on my street all the time. And since they've moved to to Tanforan, I don't see them anymore in my neighborhood. I see the Millbrae police more often because I, live on Acacia. And then another thing from personal experience, where I grew up, I lived a couple of doors down from a situation that was similar to Memory Lane. And there had been some problems. The homeowners actually got to the point where they went and, without the city's permission, closed off the street. They closed off the lane. Which then, of course, then the city got involved and, where police then became more active and patrolling it, and the problems went away, and the lane was reopened again. So I would really urge to please, if the problems are happening after school, get the police out there. Kids are going to cause trouble. These kids are such troublemakers. They're going to cause trouble no matter where they go. So they need to be watched. Thank you.
Thank you. Wendy Al-Muqdad.
Hi, I'm Wendy Almugdad. We recently moved and bought a house on Hazel, and I love to walk. I lived in the city for a number of years and walked all over the city, and I found Memory Lane soon after we moved. It's been a little more than a year, and my son was in a stroller at that time, and I found it really convenient. From where I was, it helped kind of avoid some hills, and being in the city for a long time, you always look for where you're avoiding the hills when you're walking. I really do empathize with the problems that people are having. I would prefer if it could stay open. I really find walkability really important to my community. Maybe some temporary closures if needed to deal with the problem, but I think what I'm really more concerned about is, like the woman said before, the person that said, and the neighbor that said in the last 6 to 7 years that things have been getting worse. I would love I feel like there's very good things about San Bruno that attracted me here. One of those things is diversity of this community, and we also, because we have diversity, we have a lot of different people with a lot of different issues, and I just would love for our community, somehow, we're small enough, can we somehow deal with these problems, the core problems? I don't see kids, myself, as just the problems. They're usually manifesting problems, from where they're coming from. And I would love for us as a community somehow to address this. I would love for my son to feel safe, to go to all the public schools, including Parkside. I mean, I want to feel safe for him to go there. But just the community in general, I would just love for us to somehow come together and address this. I do know that one time that I was walking over there, and I was walking on Clark, I saw some kids in one of the duplexes shooting a BB gun, and they were shooting it where they had some cans on the corner of Clark and I forget the street. I stopped and I told them to stop, They didn't really seem to want to, they didn't want to listen to me. I did feel at that point, how much do I want to push this, for my own safety or whatever. It did dawn on me too, it would be nice if we knew as a community, what could we do in situations like that, where we feel like we're not going to hopefully get retaliation, but we could really help, like, let's deal with the problem, but also let's give these kids some other options too. San Bruno Park is a beautiful park, and I love it, and I love that there's all this energy and all these different ages and kids, and I just think that hopefully we can come together and deal with this as a community. Thanks.
Thank you. Scott Smith?
Mr. Mayor, my name is Scott Smith. I live on Poplar Avenue. I'm 5 houses from Memory Lane. I use it daily, and I think it's wonderful. I find it to be very clean. I find it to be graffiti-free. I find it to be safe. I am not having problems with the kids. But listening to my neighbors, I feel for them. I know they're having some real pain. And I really don't think, I think we want to solve their pain. I think that's what our goal should be. I don't think closing Memory Lane is going to be the solution to that. I think some of the other commentators said that we're being held hostage by these kids, and we cannot give in to, delinquent kids. That's not the right solution. They're going to find a way around it. They're going to climb over the fences. They're going to retaliate. They're going to see that they've won. I mean, it's not the right solution. I think we need to think about better policing, we should have zero tolerance policy. There should be no, signs that say you will be prosecuted. Surveillance. There's a lot of solutions, I think, that we could put into place that might even be a little more cost effective for us than trying to close it down and police it and worry about fences and how that looks in our neighborhood. I mean, we are the city with a heart. We should not be closing down our walkways. We need to be pedestrian friendly. I don't want to see a chain link fence go up in my neighborhood. I don't want to see barbed wire in my neighborhood. I want to see the root of the problem solved, and I think we need to find other ways to do it before we resort to drastic measures. I think that's what we need to focus on. Thanks.
Thank you. Mike Bingham.
Good evening, Mayor, people of council, fellow residents here of San Bruno. My name is Mike Bingham. I live on the corner of Clark and Oak. And earlier, one of the council people said that the students leave down Niles, down Clark, no, down Niles, across my lawn, down Clark. They've done this for 40 years. It's the kids. This is not a memory lane problem. This is a kid problem. We've had people hang on gutters of my fellow neighbors. I've had rocks thrown through my truck. I'm on the corner of Clark and Oak. I've also had people tell me that at nighttime, they prefer to walk by my house, because if you know where I live, I light up the whole neighborhood, because it's motion lights all the way around. I don't have these problems. I've been here for 40 years. I've had paper routes that have gone through memory lane. I've run wheels and deals. Some of the people that are on the police force here look familiar to me. Grace Honda, I feel for them, but I also remember what was Bayshore Chrysler. Things do change. But this is not a memory lane issue. This is not a memory lane problem. This is a kid problem. The kids, every 3 years, they get a little more X-rated. 2 years go by, nothing happens. My garage door stays closed. 2 years go by, there's a cycle. There's a cycle of kids. Now, if it's for the principal who thinks that cutting and closing this is going to take care of this, once you close it, where are the kids going to exit off then? Where is the problem going to travel to then? This is not a memory lane problem. So with that being said, I would hate to have a permanent decision to change something for a temporary problem. We all use it. We're getting older. You don't realize the access that that's going to help you later on in life. I feel for the 8 people that live here. Probably when I was a paper route, I had some of them as customers, but it's the generation at the time. This is a problem with kids, not memory lane.
Thank you. Looks like Amit on Poplar. AMIT. He left already? Okay. Mr. Lubke?
Your Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, ladies and gentlemen, Alan Lubke, Fleetwood Drive. Why are you, Alan Lubke, up here speaking about memory lane? You live on Fleetwood Drive. Well, it wasn't that long ago that there was an easement on Fleetwood Drive at the top of the hill. And that easement affected four property owners, and the problems that were reported here were essentially the same. Of course, in this case, it was one of the kids in the houses that lived there that created most of the problem. But anyway, they went through the planning commission. They decided to close the easement and assign the property to the adjacent homeowners there. Now, what was the effect? Well, the effect, in my experience, it's been quite a number of years. I used to always take my dog that way, and I used to connect with the neighbors over on Sequoia. and it made a nice way to interconnect with the community. So I really, really sympathize here. Now I want to take to task the introduction and the presentation of the so-called issue here by the city attorney and by the member of the other staff member here. Where's the survey map of this area? Where's the survey map? Is this an easement? What is it? Let's see it on hard copy. Please don't have another one of these presentations without presenting just exactly how much control and any restrictions the city might have in their decision making. That's fundamental for you hearing this. What are your decision making capabilities? We haven't heard from the fire department. Would it be unsafe to close it because you need to fight fires? Have you checked with PG&E and the sewage people to see if there's any you would be cutting off any access? Very disappointed in the initial presentation here tonight.
All right, thank you. I don't have any more cards. Did everyone have a chance to speak tonight? Okay. All right. Council discussion on this. Michael?
To address Mr. Lubke's final concern, Mark, can you talk a little bit about what our options are legally in terms of what we do have a right to do?
So I think, as I indicated in my presentation, the city does in fact own fee title to all 3 blocks of Memory Lane. There was perhaps some confusion, was listed I think in one of the newspaper articles, that the city gave up an easement or there's only an easement over it. That's not the case. There was a vacation of a 3-foot strip across the Grace Honda parking lot, but the remaining 10 feet of the fee title still remains. So the city does in fact own fee title to all 3 of those blocks. So I think that answers Mr. Lubke's question. As far as whether there are utilities and other things in there, I think I also mentioned in my staff presentation that there is a sewer utility that runs at least across one of the sections of the lane, and just wait 1 second, I'll find it for you. While I'm looking for that, I can indicate what some of the options are. Hold on 1 second, let me get the easement information for you first. So the sewer line runs between Linden and Poplar in that easement location. So that would make it difficult, if not impossible, for the city to physically vacate the entire lane and then hand it over to the adjacent property owners. There are other options that we pointed out in the staff report you could consider, some of which have been raised by some of the residents today, and we're certainly happy to come back to you with some additional analysis of those options after we get some direction from the council.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay.
Are we in
why don't we do this? Michael and I have been privy to a lot of this discussion for a number of months now. So, we've heard a lot of this before, and it's good to get this public out here like this. So, I'd like to hear from the rest of the council and see what you think about some of the things you heard, and possibly how to go forward. Irene?
Thank you. First of all, I appreciate everyone coming out here. We don't often see this many people at our council meetings, so it's good to see democracy in action. I have a couple of things I'd like to say. First of all, I'm sorry, I use Memory Lane almost every day. I walk up and down it, and for Grace Honda, my daughter and I use the Memory Lane to go around through your store, through the lot, and because I did that, I stopped and bought a car from you. So if I hadn't gone through there, I wouldn't have bought my car. So there must be other people who've done similar things. I do sympathize and empathize with the people who live on the side. It's not pleasant when people come through at night and there's noise and there's all those things that you're suffering. So I think the gentleman who said we should be looking for solutions for these people's pains is right on. I think there's a lot of things we can do. I particularly would wish that we look for things other than closing the lane. I happened to be at a meeting recently, and this might help, or is something that hasn't been considered yet. This is called Safe Routes to School. It's a federal grant program that seeks to promote activities that increase the numbers of students walking, which is another issue, biking, as ways of promoting students' health and fitness and reducing traffic congestion around schools. It is a several $million-dollar grant program that we could apply for. It offers a variety of ways to get kids to walk back and forth to school safely with such things as crossing guards or other types of supervision. So I will pass this on. Unfortunately, our school district has not chosen to participate in this, but maybe we can persuade them to start and be a benefit to not just Parkside, but to all the students. I had, let's see. I'm wondering about, and I don't expect an answer, I'm just throwing out some observations. I too have been a school teacher for a long time and had children who went to Parkside, and I also went to Parkside. In fact, I originally went to Bel Air and walked up, and I swear I never walked on your lawn, but I don't think so. But it is something that, it is, as another gentleman has said, it is the kids. It goes in waves. It's not all the time. It's not every day. It's not all the time every day. So that's what I wish. I wish we can, and I'm sure we are able to find solutions that do not include closing the lane all the way.
Vice Mayor?
Well, I'm going to make some friends tonight. I'm not going. I'm going to lose some friends, but I'm just. The bottom line here is what I need to make a decision for is to put myself in the position of those 12 residents. How would I feel if I lived there? Whether I've got a wall facing the alley or whether I've got 3 feet facing the alley or whatever. Now, it's really easy to make all these suggestions and say police presence, lighting, cameras, whatever, 24/7. But all it takes at one time, and the solution fails. And I can't stop thinking about 12 residents that have to deal with that. And I'm not a walker, and no one's shown me what the benefit of a shortcut or how much more they have to walk to get 11 blocks to Parkside or to get to Genevin or to get to Crystal Springs. So my decision is now how best to close Memory Lane, without making it an eyesore or not making it another problem area. I'm in favor of closing it, and I'm in favor of looking at a way to beautify it or make these 12 residents whole. In addition to Grace Honda too. But living here, in a single-family community and having to deal with this day in and day out, it's unacceptable. I'm sympathetic, and I have a decision that that is mainly just an emotion that we should actually do something. And to me, the best thing to do is to close it.
Mr. Medina?
So I have, probably going to make friends as well, or not. This is the first time, not being on the subcommittee, hearing from the folks what they've gone through. I do appreciate everybody's coming here and putting into this concern, which is more than a concern. It's not fair and it's not right. I'm thinking back in my past, my immediate emotion would say, let's close it now. And I'm thinking back when I worked for the city of San Bruno and I worked at the Parks and Recreation Center down the street. And back then, you could drink anywhere in the park. You could park, there was no red zones when you drove through. And I worked in that building. There were gang fights. There was a stabbing in the bathroom. There was the police department closing it because they lost control. There was gang violence. Now, had I heard that then, and I was a city employee at the time, I was also on the Crime Prevention Committee, and we worked together with Parks and Rec, and we came forward as a community, and we made changes. The red zone, drinking limitations, not on the asphalt, reservations, drinking permits, etc. Had what I witnessed as I worked there, physically cleaned up the blood in the bathroom, watched the tire irons and the chains, I would have said close the park. And some people did want that. Some people had suggested closing and having gates at each end of the park. Therefore, you'd stop the traffic and the people loitering. Now, had we done that, it would have been very challenging for access, but that was a consideration. What I heard as a staff member. Beckner Shelter. We used to be able to park in there, then you couldn't park up there. Then they had a gate up there. Somebody once came forward and said, let's put a camera up there. Let's try to mitigate the graffiti and the activity. And I sat up here thinking, I don't like this idea. It's like Big Brother. But as time evolved, the graffiti and the vandalism to the site decreased, and the maintenance costs that the city incurred decreased as well. So the speakers that I've heard, very loud and clear, were to close it, and I think anybody else who spoke was not about just keep it open, but it was about we need to do something, and minimally, we need to make improvements, and we need to fast track them, and we need to do it now. I heard from speakers tonight about streamlining beautification enhancement, policing during the times of concern and with schools out. I heard about putting poles to prevent traffic through there, because obviously it's too broad. I've heard about cameras, I've heard about lighting, and I've heard about signs. And where I sit at this moment, based on everything that I've experienced in my life and living in this community and working for this community, I believe I would like to see staff at least look into the enhancements that have been brought forward here this evening, see the effectiveness and the cost, before we just immediately say close it. I think sometimes we need to take a step back, and in my case, this is the first time hearing all of this information tonight. And we need to at least see what other option we may have. Maybe in the end, there is only one option. But I think for now, I would like to at least have the information back on the enhancements that were listed. And I know when I worked for Parks and Rec, I thought the city park was a place where Parkside fought, because that's where I broke up the fights back when I worked there, almost 3 times a week. So I think it goes in waves. It may not be a memory lane problem, and we need to try to correct it, and I think try to do what we can as a community to fix the problem first, and then see if further actions need to be taken. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael, 1 minute. Irene has a question.
I'm just curious, and I would hate to lose Grace Honda. So, however the decision comes about, have we looked as a staff or the city to move one way or the other the memory lane portion that goes through Grace Honda, move it once back or forth to accommodate the building, a new building?
Yes, we did. That was one of the suggestions that was made at one of the subcommittee meetings. If you know the configuration of Grace Honda on the south side, it's a 0 lot line, so there's the Walgreens building that abuts right up to the Grace Honda property. On the other side, there's a little bit more space on the north side. So we did suggest that to the owner of Grace Honda, and they indicated they were not interested in doing that.
Do they indicate the reason for not being willing to look at just
what they told us at the subcommittee meeting was they were in favor of permanently closing the lane, and were not interested in considering that alternative.
Okay. Thank you.
Michael?
Excuse me, we're supposed to say one more thing?
Uh,
I've already spoken, I'm Dennis Martinez. I just, real quick.
You got 30 seconds, Dennis.
Okay. You suggest not closing the lane. How about enclosing the lane? And then you can cover the top, cover the sides. People won't walk through. They won't be throwing things at my house. They won't be throwing things in my yard. And you guys can take care of all the graffiti inside the tunnel, the lighting, whatever you guys want to do with it.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you. Go ahead, Michael.
Thank you, Jim. Obviously, the mayor and I have been thinking about this for a very long time, since it first came up several months ago, and you've all been very patient in waiting for us to go through our process, and so I do appreciate that from you. I think initially I told you that we would move on this quickly. It ended up being that we needed to do a lot of research on this, so I hope you realize that we have done a lot of our homework, and we've looked at a lot of options, and a lot of what we are hearing here tonight are things that I had thought a lot about what is going to happen to the problem when it's no longer in that little alley. It's going to spill over somewhere. I've been thinking a lot about that. Could be back in your park, Rico. I don't know.
It's our park.
I thought about what message does it send to the kids where we're telling them, okay, we don't want to deal with you, go somewhere else, we don't want you in this alley. What's it going to do to the neighborhood where neighbors used to be able to walk up and see their friends on the other street? I heard a lot of concerns when we temporarily closed another street in another neighborhood here, how it really fragmented the neighborhood. And I'd hate to see that happen. This is a really unique aspect to San Bruno, and I do walk the neighborhood a lot, and I go up and down that alley every now and then. Not a lot, but it is an interesting little thing that makes San Bruno different, and it makes that neighborhood unique. But having heard the complaints and the seriousness of what's happening in that area, and just thinking to myself, how would I like it if people were using the area next to my house as a thoroughfare and dropping garbage and doing that next to my house, and I don't think I would really appreciate that very much. It's a very unique thing for the neighbors as well, not just as an aspect of the neighborhood, but it is pretty unique. We don't have too many alleys in the city. I don't think there's another pedestrian-only alley anywhere else, so it is unique. It is a short section. I looked at what the impact would be to people that had to walk around. It's roughly, I think, for the longest distance for people in the neighborhood to get around to somewhere like Walgreens or to the front of Grace Honda would add probably another quarter of a mile, which for people with mobility issues might be serious. I know for most everybody else that's walking their dog or pushing a stroller, it's probably not that big of a deal. I've thought about all the different options that we could think of, and I don't know that there's anything that's going to be as immediate or as effective as just closing it. And the idea that we kicked around in the subcommittee was that we would do a temporary closure to evaluate the situation. I have no doubt that closure will resolve the issues that you're seeing. Again, there are other issues that were raised here tonight that I have thought about also, and we are going to have to deal with those issues. That's not the action that's in front of us tonight, but I'm glad that the issues were raised, and it is something that we as a council need to start considering in terms of what is our responsibility as the city's government to maintaining peace on the streets and guaranteeing that people are safe and that the students, it's certainly not the school's responsibility. Once you're done educating them and you send them home, they shouldn't be your responsibility. Do we want it to be a police matter? I don't know that that's the right approach either, but it's an issue and it has to be dealt with. Again, something that I've thought a lot about, but I think the mayor and I agreed that at least a temporary closure is a reasonable option at this time. And whether or not we revisit that at some future point, I think right now we do need to look at options, direct city staff to give us what our options are in terms of how we can close it, and how long of a period we should consider a reasonable experiment.
All right. As Michael said, we've thought long and hard about this situation, and do have a lot of empathy for the residents that get this direct insult. And first of all, I want to say I do understand Parkside's situation. You have a rough job. It's tough. It's not easy. Some kids are dealt to you that, in fact, have some systemic problems. They're not all bad kids, and they're not all really good kids. But it only takes a few, as we've seen in society, how many times in the last number of months. It only takes a few to make everybody look bad. So it's a kid problem, partially. It's probably not all a kid problem, but they're the ones that are being focused on because they're probably the easiest people to target. I don't think just closing it outright is going to solve a situation. I mentioned at our very first meeting, my concern was that you take a problem and you move it. I don't think the Grace Honda situation is really good. It doesn't make a lot of sense to have a public thoroughfare right through the middle of an outdoor showroom. So I think we have to work on that really hard. But I don't think we have exhausted all of our possibilities. As Rico made a very good point, a number of years ago we had tons of graffiti and damage at Beckner Shelter. Now it's a different situation. We decided to put in some cameras. We don't have that problem anymore. Once those kids see a flash, they're gone, all right, because they're easy to track, because they're going to go to school the next day if, in fact, they are the kids. It's real easy. Those are some of the things that we want, I believe I want staff to look at. I want to exhaust every possibility before we close something that, in fact, as Mr. Ibarra said, we have single families that use that. And sure, should the residents adjacent to that lane suffer because people want to keep it open? No, they shouldn't. But that's why we sent out a survey. We didn't want to hear from just 8 people or 14 people or 20 people. We heard from almost 400. Well, we sent it out to almost 400 and heard from an extraordinary amount of people. So if we have to expand that, that's fine too. But you're probably going to get the same kind of result. 70% said, wait a minute, we don't want to close it. There's got to be another solution. And if closing it is the final solution, so be it. But I want to make sure we do that based on exhausting all of our possibilities. Staff has made some recommendations about what we might be able to do, and I would like them to aggressively pursue those possibilities before we make a decision on closing Memory Lane. I don't think we'll do it tonight, but I believe if the staff concurs and the council concurs, that we give you direction to exhaust those possibilities, see what the costs are for the city, and because as one resident said, it's fine to close it, but what are you going to have, a barbed wire fence or a cyclone fence or whatever, and then who maintains it? Do you have more problems? I mean, we have issues here dealing with ownership. Do we grant part of the lane to people so that they can put up a taller fence? I mean, there's all different kinds of little things that we could look at, but I think we have to look at some of those very seriously, especially if it's a security issue.
Thank you,
City Attorney?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I think we've heard direction to bring the item back with a more thorough analysis of all of the different alternatives that you've talked about, and I believe that we can do that by the second meeting in March.
All right, and we did want to expedite this when we met in October, we met in December. Some of the logistical problems we had, you can't really research what's happening on Memory Lane if the kids are away on vacation. And so lots of little things like that, and not to make an excuse, but I will tell you we're dealing with a lot of other things also. This is one of them, and we want to have a resolution to this, whatever it happens to be, to serve you properly. That's our main goal. We're working very hard at it. Unfortunately, one of the most frustrating things for me, as I've said for the last 17 plus years, is that government moves slowly. But when we're dealing with your money and your safety, we can't just shoot from the hip. We have to take it properly and do it the right way. So if the council concurs, I'd like staff to do a little more research on some of the very specific things you recommended and the cost of those things, and then we'll analyze that and base our decision on that.
Through the chair, just to be clear, there is going to be a dialogue on closing the lane. What what steps will need to be taken to close the lane.
Right. If the council directs us, we'll be happy to include that alternative
I'd like
in
that to be,
analysis of it.
I'd like that to be an option.
Oh, it is an option.
Yeah, I think the mayor indicated that, but if, we want to expedite, we want to do the homework, let's bring everything there forward to us. So the residents have waited, they've endured a lot, they deserve and need to get answers and know the fate of Memory Lane.
Understood?
Thank you. Michael?
One final comment. I know some of the solutions that were proposed were around lighting and providing more security in the area, but it seems to me that at least the more egregious offenses in that area have happened during daytime hours, where lighting probably wouldn't have made a difference with kids coming down there in large groups and fighting. The camera may or may not deter them if they want to show up there and fight. I don't know what action the police department can take for kids gathering, insulting their neighbors, being loud. I don't know if that's something that's specifically citable, and having their faces on a camera may not do us any good. So I'd like those solutions that the staff looks at to be in context of what the specific complaints were and how we would address those complaints, the ones that are at least documented. And if the public has any more specific issues that are more recent, that would be pertinent to what staff is going to be looking at, then we'd certainly appreciate hearing those.
Thank you. We understand that.
Okay. We have a very exciting meeting ahead of us if you want to stay, but I'm going to say we're going to take a 5-minute recess so that you can clear the room. Thank you. I'd like to call City Council back to order. Next item of business is item B, adopt a resolution approving property owner notice and protest process for 2012-2013 garbage rate increase proposed by Recology San Bruno. Kim.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, my presentation this evening is to give an overview of the 2012-13 garbage rate increase proposals submitted by our franchise garbage provider, Recology San Bruno. After my initial overview, I will hand it over to Kirsten Pinocchi, General Manager of Recology San Bruno, who will provide more detailed information about a supplemental proposal to initiate a organics program in San Bruno. These rate increase proposals have been reviewed and discussed by a City Council subcommittee consisting of Mayor Rain and City Council Member Salazar, and I ask that they please provide additional input that was discussed by the subcommittee at the conclusion of the presentation. Per the franchise agreement, Recology San Bruno is entitled to rate adjustments based on a detailed rate analysis every 3 years, with interim rate adjustments for the 2 years in between. The 2012-13 year is the second year of an interim rate increase, so the upcoming 13-14 year will represent the next detailed rate analysis. The interim rate adjustment is a component of 80% adjustment of the CPI adjustment, as well as a percentage increase for the allowable pass-through disposal fees. This increase, the interim rate adjustment increase for the current year, results in a 2.341% increase. In addition, at the request of the city, Recology provided a second supplemental proposal to initiate a organics pickup program in San Bruno due to increasing interest from residents and businesses. This awareness has been aided by the fact that 10 other agencies in San Mateo County have initiated an organics program within the last year. However, this program does come at a cost. The supplemental proposal for the organics program results in an increase of 9.37% in addition to the interim rate year adjustment. This increase is primarily driven by the fact that the green waste toter that is now on a bi-weekly pickup schedule would move to a weekly pickup schedule because it would have food waste in that, and that would result in the need to add 3 more collection vehicles and 3 more drivers to accommodate that change in schedule. So the overall increase, if the City Council were to determine to initiate an organics program, would be 11.7%. This next slide is I believe you received a handout prior to the meeting that basically shows the comparison of San Bruno rates today in comparison to other agencies in San Mateo County, and what that rate increase would look like based on the 2.3% increase for the interim rate year adjustment, as well as adding the 9.37% increase to initiate the organics program. And the comparison is in ascending order, comparing those agencies that do not have organics with those that do in the third column. So with that, I will hand it over to Kirsten Pinoki, who will discuss the organics program in more detail.
Thank you, Kim. So currently,
Right into the mic.
there we go. Currently, our residents put their yard clippings in a green cart and they put it out at the curb every other week. That's how our current collection, and we send it to a processor that uses it in creating compost. The proposed organics collection would then allow residents to put yard clippings in their green in addition to food waste and used paper products. This would then it would result in us having to pick up the green cart weekly. And that material would again be brought to a processor in creating an organic compost. Organic material is shown in the slide above. It's food, it's your dinner products, it's your used pizza boxes, it's your coffee cups, your paper towels, your paper plates, in addition to still putting your yard clippings into that organic cart. One of the questions that came up in the subcommittee was there's a price difference in processing yard waste and processing food waste, and it's a somewhat significant difference. So I wanted to explain the difference and how that works. Right now, we take the green waste to the processor. It's delivered. The material is then ground up, and it's put into what's called a windrow, which is just a long dirt row. It's turned on a schedule, and it's watered on a schedule, and it's screened. So it's very low maintenance just to make yard clippings into regular low-grade organic compost. That material is also used as kind of a feeder to make rich organic compost. So the proposed organic, if we go organics, it is taken to the same facility, but it's taken to a different area. It is ground up, as it is regularly with the regular. It's also mixed with other food waste, and it's used to make what's called a good recipe for organics. It's placed in a covered windrow, and a lot of things are then done to it. The gases from the food waste is captured, and there's some leachate that comes off that has to be treated. It's turned on a very regular schedule. It's watered very regularly, and again, the leachate is taken out and treated, and then it's screened again. So it's a very lengthy process to make the organic compost, which results in a greater feed. Here are some slides that show, it's called the engineered compost system. So what it does is it speeds up the organic process. And in the top left, you can see that all the organics is put into a pile, it's covered, and then there's air pumped through it, and the temperature's monitored regularly. And you can see the system on the right is what puts the air in, what measures the temperature, what sucks out the gases that the food waste produces. We also talked about what are some of the reasons that we should do, that the City of San Bruno should move forward with organic compost. One is it helps meet the 75% statewide diversion goal that is put forth by AB 341. AB 341 is a mandate that was put into place, that was approved on October 6, 2011, and it'll go into play July 1st. That will require that commercial customers that create 4 yards of garbage or more must recycle. And it also, the biggest part of it is it initiates a statewide diversion goal of 75% that the state needs to meet by 2020. By putting organics into play in the City of San Bruno will help us achieve that diversion goal. It's environmentally the right thing to do. We're hearing from our residents that they want to compost, they want to do the right thing, they want to teach their kids to do the right thing. And right now, a lot of our residents are working outside of the City of San Bruno, and they're working in Burlingame, and they're working in San Carlos, and they're composting at work. They want to bring that, and they want to compost at home. Those are some of the comments that we're getting from our residents via Contact Us and online. We do have some of our big businesses that we were fortunate enough to get, which is Walmart.com and YouTube. Both of them are on a pilot program, and Walmart is utilizing 2 6 yards of green waste and food waste, and they're serviced twice a week. And YouTube has a 3-yarder that is serviced twice a week. We're also getting, we got some contact from Kaiser Corporate that they are mandating their offices in San Bruno to go to a more compost or organic program. We're finding that that's a little more common, that big businesses are making all their subsidiaries in the different cities comply, and we'd like to be able to help them do that. To give you a couple of comparisons, which I think you'll find useful, the City of Pacifica, who has about 12,000 residents, they rolled out an organic program, and in the first year, they reduced their garbage by 712 tons, and they increased their organics by 320. A side note to that is they also rolled out a single stream recycling program at the same time. So some of the garbage that was pulled out of their can went to the recycling can, and 320 tons went into the organics can. Cupertino has about 14,000 residents, and they, in their first year, equaled it out. They reduced their garbage by 500 tons and increased their organics by 500. So those were some of the highlights of the organics proposal, and at the end, I'd be happy to address any questions that you have when it's over, right?
Yes. Okay. I only have a few more things to say. Just to remind you that the action being requested tonight is to authorize us to proceed with the property owner notice and protest process. So there are essentially 2 options available to council as far as the timing of this notice. Option 1 would initiate the noticing process immediately. The notice could go out as early as the end of next week, with the first public hearing held at the April 24th meeting. Option number 2 would be to hold off on sending the garbage rate increase notice out and wait and send those concurrently with the upcoming water and wastewater rate increases, which are scheduled for City Council review at the March 13th meeting. So that would have the notices mailed concurrent with those rate increase and have the public hearing held on May 8th. So in closing, there are 3 items that we are seeking City Council direction on. One is to determine when to initiate the mailing of the property owner notice. And just to add to that former slide, the City Council subcommittee, when they met last week, did express an interest in favor of option number 2 on that item. What is the City Council's interest in pursuing the organics collection? And the 3rd item would be what rate increase should be noticed in the property owner notices. So that concludes the formal presentation, and we'll hand it over for questions.
Any questions of staff? Irene?
Kirsten, really. Kirsten. I always do that poor thing. I've seen at Costco and in San Francisco, they use different containers for the compost? Is there a reason for that and why we're not doing that?
They use those containers internally, like the Slim Jims that you see at Costco, and then those are then dumped into a larger container. Residents would receive a kitchen pail that they would put on their counter and scrape their food scraps, and then those would go into their current green cart.
Okay. Do you expect any, or have you heard of any problems with rodents or odors or any kind of thing that would make people object to doing this or hesitate to do this?
When it was rolled out in other cities, there was a lot of concern for rodents and smell. We've found a lot of tips that we would publish out for the residents, such as using a paper bag to absorb a lot of the moisture, baking soda. We've learned a lot of tips that we would put in our outreach.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Questions?
Through the chair.
Rico?
Just correct me, there is still an 18-gallon?
We have a 20-gallon option.
It's 20, I apologize. So it's 20. Now, I noticed that's not, I didn't see it really quickly noted. Is that just because there is no increase to that, or?
It's on the bottom.
It's on the bottom?
No, and the examples given in the staff report only focus on the 32-gallon, but the rate
Correct.
increase would apply to all residential and commercial garbage rates.
Because if my memory is correct, the 20 was because it was some way to say you're increasing your recycling, therefore you can go to a smaller garbage, therefore you're having some cost and savings, so the last increase actually was going to be offset if you had gone to the smaller waste disposal container.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's worth mentioning as well, just because I think it's important for folks to know that there are options. Recycling does count, and hopefully it does pay off, and that's why I was encouraging that last time, and I'm still feeling that's important for our community to know. It's interesting to me, the examples you gave of the other communities as far as when they went into and how many tons they saved or transferred. What did that do to their rates?
What did that do?
Well,
You mean
so
as for migration?
in Cupertino, it was X rate a month. Then they went to this new program. Obviously, there's costs involved. So then it went to what? After they embarked upon the program.
You know what? I don't have the price variation that Cupertino or Pacifica incurred when they went to the new rate, when they went to the new program. Pacifica was they rolled in a few programs at once. They rolled out their organics program and their single stream recycling at the same time. I did ask Cupertino what their migration rate was, and 85% of their residents are already at a 32, and they don't have a 20-gallon option. So.
Michael? Thank you. So I appreciate you providing those examples in the PowerPoint. I think it clarified a little bit some of the questions I had during the subcommittee meeting. I was wondering, on the two examples that you gave, the two cities that you mentioned, did they have a well-established recycling program prior to rolling this in? Meaning, had they been recycling for a long time and doing that successfully, at least as long as we have?
Pacifica they weren't doing single stream recycling. They were doing and Felicia can actually correct me if I'm wrong, they were doing the stackable recycling as we were doing way back when. So they had rolled it out at the same time, so it wasn't established the single stream yet. Cupertino.
They had single stream. Okay. Okay. So I think the figure that we discussed in the subcommittee was about 5% diversion that we could, additional diversion that we could count on by going to this program?
That we would hope for a minimum of 5%.
5%.
Yes.
And where are we in terms of the 2020 goal?
That's Jim Shannon's going to answer that question.
Oh, he's got it, though.
So the current requirement that the city has is to divert 50% of our solid waste by the year 2000. So that's the requirement. We still have the 50% requirement. That 75% is more of a statewide goal. Right now, San Bruno is at they don't really measure it in diversion anymore. They kind of measure it in pounds per person per day disposed, which is kind of a weird thing to say. So our measurement is about 4.5 pounds per day that we need to hit. So right now we are below that at 4 pounds per person per day, which is good. So that's roughly equivalent to like a 56% diversion rate.
Okay. Thank you.
Through the chair, I have to ask a question. What if we don't do it? I notice on your, your comparison sheet here that Recology is leading the way in organics and that there are other competitors that are not. What can you tell us about their plans, like South City Scavenger and Allied Waste? I mean, are they rolling that out also? Is it something that we have to do, or is it something that we're delaying, or that you're just trying to get a head start on?
It's not something you have to do. I think it's not inevitable. I think it will. I think the residents and the commercial community will push for it eventually. It's not something you have to do today. It's something that we don't want to be the last one to jump on board. So we're bringing it to you as an option to do it now, but you don't have to do it.
And is it like everything else that if we decide to delay it because for whatever reason, because of the the increase or whatever, it will cost more?
Things do cost more. Disposal will go up. Drivers will go up. Cost of trucks will go up. Everything will go up in time.
So this is as cheap as it's going to be.
It'll go up regardless whether we adopt
This is
it or
it.
not.
Yeah. Okay.
This is it. Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Some action regarding, Kim, what would you like? You have 2 actions?
Well, the first action was to indicate your support for mailing of the notice either immediately, or we can mail the notice concurrent with the proposed water and wastewater notices. So those are the 2 options as far as timing is concerned that we'd like direction on. And the second item is to identify whether or not we want to note what rate we want increase we want to notice. Keep in mind that you can notice a higher rate. We are not determining the rate at this point in time. The rate will be considered come end of April, early May. You could notice a higher rate and then always move forward with a lesser rate. So that is a possibility.
So we have time on the organics.
You do, although I guess the downside to that is you're losing a window of opportunity. There's an education window here, and so we need to make sure that if we're going to, when we initiate the mailing, we want to make sure that we start that education process on the organics program. So that would be the hiccup in that option.
Yeah. But meaning the council has a little bit of time before we send out those notices
Yes.
as to what they're going to include.
Yes.
Mr. Lubke, did you have something to say?
My name is Honorable Mayor. My name is Alan Lubke. I live on Fleetwood Drive. I have 2 questions. My first question is, well, I'd like to make an observation and compliment Councilman Ibarra for bringing up the compound interest rule. Things cost more, it's going to increase geometrically as because of added cost to the added cost. My first question is, and the important one is adopting this resolution and approval later on approval. Is that putting the cart with the horse? Is that it? The rate increase comes along with, it's a package deal, the rate increase and the 2 greens, a green a week. Is that all one thing? Eventually, when you vote on that? I would assume so, all right?
Well,
you're going to vote for a rate increase, and then and the rate what that does is it improves the ecology thing.
Well, there's 2 things. First of all, we have regular garbage service, which is going to increase a little over 2%.
That's right.
Then we have an option to include organic waste in that, which is going to increase the combined rate to, I think it's 11.71%.
Right.
So what we have to decide is this is a rate review year. They're going to get the 2% because of the contract.
Right.
But we have to decide if we want to put the organic with this and just get it done now, or if we want to put it off. So
Right.
that's
The organic, right? Okay, so the money goes along with the product. we got a problem at the Lubke household right now. You know, I don't want to put that used pizza box in the paper container. You know, my wife doesn't understand that. And she throws the you know, paper plates with food into there, and so I'm going to have a problem. Could somebody talk to the actual details that somebody like me who would go through is it going to be extra workload on me as an individual now to have separate containers to do this and do that at home? And could you talk in micro and not macro? Could somebody give a little brief you know, discussion about that?
Well, we don't want to get into a lengthy discussion, but I believe Kirsten already talked about that a little bit. I just let her review that again.
Well, she saw the products. I saw the products.
Yeah.
But I mean to actually execute that.
All right. So let's ask her to just briefly explain it again. So we have a yard waste can now, we have a garbage can now, and we also have a recycling can. So if we go with organics, what's the difference? All right. Mr. Lubke and his pizza box.
The only added can that you'll receive is a kitchen pail that you'll put on your kitchen counter. Okay? It's about that big. And when you're done with dinner, your wife can scrape the plates into the pail, and then you're going to dump that pail into your current green one that you're already using for grass. It's just going to go on top of your grass in the green one. And your pizza box can now go, it can't go in the recycling because it's contaminated with grease. Now we're giving you a place. You don't have to put it in the garbage can anymore. You'll be able to put it in the green one, and it'll get composted.
Why do I need a garbage pail?
There are a few things, unfortunately, that still are residual, that don't go in the green or the blue, such as styrofoam, saran wrap, certain packaging that we're still seeing in the industry.
Do I need to keep this extra pail? You know, is that?
You don't have to utilize the pail.
You don't have to utilize
No.
the pail.
No, you can go straight into the green if you choose, or you can use a paper bag. It's just an added tool that we can provide you for ease of use.
I hope those instructions are real clear. Right now I have difficulty right now.
And a lot of our outreach will be very picture-oriented and detail-oriented, which was part of what I wanted to bring up too, was education takes a long time and it'll take a while for the program to mature. So putting it off longer only means that it takes longer to mature. So.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more discussion or action by the council? Michael?
Through the chair, I just wanted to share some of my thoughts, and I'm glad Mr. Lubke brought up that issue, because the concern I had too is that this organics program it's very messy, and it does require extra work on the part of the residents to make it successful. And you will have to keep this nasty little pail somewhere in your kitchen full of pretty nasty garbage. You'll have to rinse out your green bin weekly, probably, if it's got food junk in there, to keep it clean and so it doesn't stink up. And for all that, you get to pay an extra 9.37% increase on your rate for the privilege of doing that. So my concern, I think it's a good idea. It is the right thing to do. It's an environmentally friendly thing to do, to divert as much as we can out of the trash cans and into these landfills. We don't get much of a benefit, though, as homeowners. And if we are composting already, we're already doing that. If we get to put it in there, then we lose the compost that we had for our own personal use. And I mean, that was really my concern, is that there is a cost associated with it. And I mean, statistically, it looks like other cities have been successful with it. I think it's going to be kind of a hard sell, even in my own home.
Just out of curiosity, through the chair, do we see the technology or the way things are done from this pail that is of concern to Councilmember Salazar's home? Is there anything that we could see changing If it's not adopted potentially now and maybe 2 years from now it is, or do we see the exact same thing today, what we see today or what's proposed today, there 2 years from now?
You were just asked to look into the future.
I was just going to say, I can't predict technology. I hope that something will change in 2 years, but I can't predict the future. I can only see that we're going to have to walk the food, put it somewhere. We're going to have to put it in the green. We're going to have to put it in there, and it's going to be messy. It is. But we have found, like I said, a lot of alternatives and a lot of guides to help residents and commercial businesses avoid the messy. We've watched it happen in other cities, and we can learn from them and take from them and develop our public outreach and gear it towards that.
Kirsten, while you're still up there, I love you guys, but when this big green toter is now going to be full of week-old whatever, I've experienced where even just the clippings have been collected, and there's a little bit that gets on the street, and there's fluids that are in there, and I've had my favorite, carriers come and wash my street down, and so I'm just hoping that the new types of, vehicles that you're picking up with are going to be able to handle, any, waste that doesn't make the waste that gets on the street or something.
Yeah, and with the food waste, with the added juices that comes with the food.
That's
the
a good
seals
term,
on
juices,
the trucks.
yeah.
Yeah, the seals on the trucks will have to be washed carefully, and it's something that operations is familiar with, and we'll do the very best we can to keep those seals.
Yeah, because I'm going to say, everything that's been said, I don't want to do it, but I know it's the trend that we're going to have to do. But it's nasty stuff, and you have to pick it up every week. Yeah, so.
Okay, anything else? We're looking for an action, first of all, to adopt the resolution.
I'll introduce the resolution.
Mr. Mayor, it would be very helpful if we could be clear. The resolution in your packet does not include the organics program, does not include your direction for us to notice the organics program. So it would be very helpful if the council is exceptionally clear about what you would like to approve, and if you were to want to notice the organics program in addition to the normal rate increase, we have some additional language for the resolution in front of you.
Do we need to do that tonight?
What we need from you tonight is, although if you're willing to defer 2 weeks on mailing out the notices, we could bring this back to you on the 13th, just as for full disclosure. But the action that we're looking for is your direction regarding what rate it is that you want to be noticed to residents. Should that rate be the 2.3% that is part of the normal operations, or should it be the 11.71% that would include the organics program?
So if we say tonight 11.71%, we can always send out a notice that's cheaper if we decide we don't, after some more information, want organics at this point in time.
Yeah, well, the way that would work is that we would proceed to notice the rate that you tell us, along with along with description of the programs and the services that would be provided for that rate, i.e. with or without organics. And then when, after the 45-day notice period, at the end of April, we will return to you for a public hearing, at which time you will have the option to further consider the actual approval of a rate and the actual approval of the program. And if you decide at that time that you wish to not implement organics, you would have the opportunity to do that.
Okay, so organically speaking,
I'd like memory lane closed.
The easiest thing is to include it tonight with the option to actually take it off at a later date.
if the council has an interest to,
Yeah, the only reason I mention is because Michael and I have had a little bit more discussion in detail, and I think the rest of the council might have some more specific questions going forward.
if that's the case, then I would recommend that you ask those questions tonight and ask us to bring it back to you on March 13th before we actually send out the notice to residents.
Okay. Do you have any specific questions, or Irene?
I don't have any questions. I can make a comment to persuade you all if you need to. Organics composting is coming. It should be done. It needs to be done. It's been successfully done in many cities. I worked in a school in San Francisco, and they compost all their lunch, waste, and it was a fabulous lesson for them on how much did not go into the garbage can because they were allowed to do that. Plus, they had a whole nutrition lesson because they stopped bringing things that they didn't eat and all these other things that went with it. So, yes, it's a little messy, but originally purely recycling things was messy too. I mean, people had a big problem with not taking that old can of something and throwing it in the garbage can. They learn to rinse it out and put it in the recycling bin, and after a while nobody says anything about it, and our recycling rates are very, very good. So I for one think we need to do it. It's never going to get cheaper. We're going to have to do it eventually. The sooner we do it, the better, and that's what I'm proposing for this resolution. So I don't know if people want to delay it or not, but I'll introduce it that way.
Okay.
So roll call.
Yep. Clear, Carol?
Question?
Yes.
And to the city manager, I did understand that you certainly could do the 11.7 with the understanding that it could go to 2.34 after public input and what have you. So I'm leaning to doing that. I honestly, I do have a concern. It is the future and where we need to be. You're talking about 11.7%. We haven't gotten to the waste and water. And I worry about the resident trying to pay their bills, feed their family, take care of their home. So that's why I'm having a concern. I haven't heard this other report that has some thought process on what those rates are. So really, to me, I'm going in a little blind because I don't know what else may have to go to the community as far as other rates. I'd like to have the whole picture, as I think every resident wants to know. What are we looking at? What does it mean to me?
Okay. Any other discussion? There's a resolution on the floor.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
No.
Councilmember Salazar.
No.
Vice Mayor Ibarra.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Mayor
And
Ruane, might I read the insertion to the resolution that you just approved for the purposes of the record?
Sure.
That resolution would include, in addition to the language that you have in front of you, an additional whereas that says, whereas Recology San Bruno has provided a supplemental proposal to initiate a new organics program in San Bruno, which results in a 9.37% increase in garbage rates, in addition to the proposed interim rate adjustment, and then goes on to describe the notice process and authorizes us to notice a rate of 11.71% and a description of the organics program.
So do you need another action then?
I do not. I just wanted to make sure that you were clear what action you had taken.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Michael.
I'd make one closing comment before we move on to the next topic. I just wanted to encourage members of the public to chime in on this. There is an opportunity here to revisit this, and I agree with Irene that it is something we're probably going to have to do eventually. I just don't know if the timing is right at this point, and I'm risking having the stigma for the city of being the last Recology city to get on board, but I think maybe we can wait a little bit longer.
Thank you. If it's all right with the council, I would like to move item F up. F is a receive oral report on implementation of the city's sanitary sewer overflow SSO reduction program.
The purpose tonight is to provide you with a summary presentation on the consent decree and the cease and desist order implementation plan. I will use the term during my presentation CD and CDO for consent decree and cease and desist order for simplicity. As an introductory presentation to our discussion on the proposed rate for sewer and water system last Friday to the utility subcommittee, I made this presentation on the sewer CD and CDO implementation plan, and the subcommittee requested that the same presentation to be provided to you tonight before your discussion at the next council meeting on the 13th on the proposed rate for the next few years for the sewer system. In the middle, actually in August of last year, you agreed with the signature and approval of the agreement with the baykeepers and also with the regional board to sign the CD and CDO. These two documents includes a prescriptive requirement and also a performance-based, outcome-based requirement for our sewer system. The reason for this action initiated by the regional board and the baykeepers was the historically very high SSO experienced by the city in the last few years. The high number of SSOs, I will use the term SSOs, which really means sanitary sewer overflow for simplicity also in my presentation, is a manifestation of the problem, and the problem is the state of our whole sewer system. What I really mean by the state of our sewer system is the age of the system. Our sewer system is between 100-year and 40-year-old, depending in what section of the city. And also, besides the age, our sewer system also has a velocity problem on the eastern part of the city, where the gradient of the whole system is insufficient. The system is very flat. In the last decade, the city invested a considerable amount of dollar in our system and was able to fix mainly most of the capacity related problem of the system, but still is a important backlog of deferred replacement is still existent in our system. In the last 3 years ago, during our last rate setting process, the council agreed to include in our 10-year rate study a major investment in our system, including a $70 million capital improvement program in our rate projection. What really caused, I already indicated that the main problem is the state of the infrastructure, but what really causing in the field the SSO itself. How you can see on this chart, there are three major reasons why SSO will happen. One is the grease, the second is the debris, in essence, pipe failures, and the roots. This is a representation of the geographical location of those SSOs. You see on the map that is a very good distribution throughout the whole city, but also is obvious that is a higher concentration on the east side of the city, where our system is in the old section of the city, where also our system is very flat. I will take each of those three major categories one by one. The first is 37% of SSO is caused by fog. You already took action and supporting a increased in our aggressive approach for enforcement of the fog ordinance for food service establishment. Also, those fog-related SSOs are happening on the residential side of our system too. Actually, more than 50% of fog-related SSOs are caused by residential-related fog problem. You already took action on the food establishment to support a increased aggressiveness to address this problem. Also is included in our implementation plan a increased public outreach to residential area to decrease the fog in our system, and to make sure that all of our residents are supporting our system, taking action to prevent the problem in our system with fog-related SSO, and they will do their part to prevent for the grease to enter in our system. The second category is the debris and pipe failures. About 35% of our SSO is caused by debris entering in the system. The main reason for this type of SSO is mainly the poor condition of our system. Reason why the blockages will clog our sewer system and will cause SSO. The way how this problem can be addressed mainly with spot repairs on short term and with replacement in long term. You already took action 2 meetings ago approving our contract for a very, very aggressive spot repair program and increasing the size of this spot repair program to $450,000 for a year. The third cause of the SSO is the root intrusion in our system. And the way how this can be addressed and prevented with increased mechanical rodding and chemical root foaming. Until now, I focused in my presentation more on preventive maintenance and increasing the activity of those maintenance activity. But this level of increased maintenance activity is not sustainable in long term, and all of these actions are successful as a short-term solution, but the long-term solution, major investment needs to happen in our system to guarantee the long-term outcome of our plan, to guarantee the reduction of the number of SSO in long term. It is proposed right now a major investment into our system. $80 million is recommended to be invested in the next 10 years. In time when more and more replacement of the system will happen, our need for short-term increased maintenance activities like the spot repair will decrease in time. Basically, those two activities will intersect in a certain point, and with the replacement, increase of the ongoing replacement, then the maintenance costs will go down in time. Until now, I was focusing only just on the hard infrastructure improvement need of our system. But in order for us to be able to make these major changes in our approach, how to maintain and improve our system, is a major improvement will be needed in our human infrastructure in the city, and to focus on performance evaluation and performance improvement of our workforce. They are our employee in sewer. They are doing a heroic job. As you know, they were able to reduce the number of SSOs last year to a level never experienced before, and that is due to their effort, but still it's important for us to invest and to assess how the performance of our workforce can be even further improved. In summary, as you see, the implementation plan include all steps necessary to take all necessary steps to meet the long-term goal, which the long-term goal is to have no more than 3 SSOs by 2019, as included in our agreement with the Baykeeper, and in our agreement with the regional board, no more than 8 SSO by 2019. This is a summary of everything what I said, a summary of all of the actions what need to be implemented to achieve that final goal of no more than 3 SSOs by 2019. This includes all of the action what you will need to take in order to guarantee the final outcome, all of the field activities, studies and plans, and also the administrative action like reporting activities and payment of legal fees, all of the payment what the city has to pay to based on our agreement. You already took action, how I said before. You approved the contract for the spot repair. Also, you took action on the technical changes needed to the fog ordinance. And you will have a few upcoming action in the next 2 months. I will just emphasize that all of this action has to happen in order for us to guarantee the final outcome of the agreement. Our latitude here is how to implement them. If those, how to implement them in-house or contracting them out, that really up to us to make those decisions. Consequences of not doing all of those, what I listed above, will result in penalties paid to the baykeepers, which includes late fees for over 60 days. The late fee will be $1,000 per day. Also, if our number of SSOs will be higher than the acceptable level of SSO in that given year, then the city will have to file an action plan with baykeeper and agree on the implementation of action plan. That one can be very time-consuming and highly costly also. The upcoming action will be at the next meeting. You will have a proposed rate for the next few years based on our alternative assessment for next 10 years investment needed in our sewer system. Also, in April, the department will come back for your consideration to discuss a wastewater division performance evaluation and improvement contract. And in May, you will see an updated version of sewer system management plan for your consideration. That is the summary of my presentation, and both of us will stand for question.
Any questions of staff? Rico?
Through the chair, thank you. One, I'd like to get a copy of the PowerPoint presentation. I can't, to be honest with you, the eyes are getting worse. It's hard for me to read some of that. It's a lot of information to digest. This is my first hearing all of this, so that would be appreciated. Based on that, I'm going to withhold all my questions because at this hour and with not having that document before me, I think it would be better served to wait.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Lubke.
No, that's okay. You go first.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, ladies and gentlemen, to the City Council, here's a suggestion. During your forthcoming confidential meetings with PG&E regarding enhancing life in San Bruno, you might consider some of these costs that were just presented and ditch the library idea.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, move right on to item number.
I didn't have a
Irene, I'm
question. I
sorry.
just wanted to make a quick statement. Michael Salazar and I saw this presentation earlier, and I thought both of us thought it was important that the council and, sorry, that the Prince Small, the council and the residents have at least one opportunity to see it as well and formulate questions for it so that the next time when we're discussing rate increases that you alluded to earlier, that they'd have some basis for understanding why we're doing it. We as a council are very proud that 16 years ago now, we started a rate increase program that has been able to pay for some of the improvements that we've experienced. I'd hate to see what the system would look like if we hadn't done that. It's never fun to increase rates. It's never fun to pay them. We all live in San Bruno. We all have to pay the rates as well. But a lot of this work is absolutely necessary, not only because Baykeepers is having us do it, but it's for the safety and the health of our residents. Sanitary overflows are not fun. So I just wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to, as a council, to see the presentation.
Thank you. Item C, adopt resolutions as successor agency to the San Bruno Redevelopment Agency, approving the draft first and second recognized obligation payment schedules for the periods of March 1st, June 30th, 2012, and July 1st, December 31st, 2012, and affirming the appointment of members of the Oversight Board for the former San Bruno Redevelopment Agency.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm going to provide you with an abbreviated presentation. The item before you tonight, the recognized obligation payment schedule, is a required payment schedule of the successor agency. As you know, redevelopment was eliminated as of February 1st, and the city voted to act as the successor agency to the former redevelopment agency. You'll recall back in January, you approved a similar schedule. It was called the amended enforceable obligation payment schedule. That schedule remains in effect until this newest schedule that's before you tonight is approved, is certified by the county, and approved by the Oversight Board. So two schedules are being proposed tonight. The first is for the time frame of March 1st through June 30th, 2012, and the second payment schedule being proposed is for July 1st through December 31st. The resolution also allows for the city manager to make any changes to the payment schedules that are needed in order to secure the certification of the county auditor controller, which is the first step in the process, and then ultimately the approval by the Oversight Board. So that's the first item before you tonight. The second item is the discussion of the appointment of the two appointments by the city to the Oversight Board. Just a reminder, the Oversight Board will consist of 7 members. 2 of those will be appointed by the city. 2 are appointed by the County Board of Supervisors. We were recently informed that Deputy County Manager Peggy Jensen will be one of those appointments, and the member at large, the public member appointment, is Hart Board member Julie, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, Vigent. The other appointment will come from the County Superintendent of Education. That appointment has not yet been made, that I'm aware of. Another appointment will come from the Chancellor of the Community College District. That appointment has been made. It's Barbara Christensen. And the final appointment will come from the largest special district taxing entity, which in our case is the Peninsula Healthcare District, and their appointment has not yet been identified. So those are the 7 members of the Oversight Board. The Oversight Board will be responsible for making some very important decisions that will impact the city. The first of those items is the Oversight Board will ultimately approve the repayment schedule of the city advances to the redevelopment agency. So as you recall, there's $2.9 million that's outstanding that the city advanced to the redevelopment agency. Since we did not have a repayment schedule in place prior to the dissolution of redevelopment, that now lies with the Oversight Board, that determination of that repayment schedule. The ROPS that's being presented to you tonight recommends a repayment schedule of $500,000 a year over the next 6 years, and that is a change from what we previously discussed. We initially thought maybe we should try to expedite the repayment of that over the next 6 months. However, after getting further information and looking at the cash flow, the reality is that there's not going to be adequate tax increment available to fund such a repayment schedule. So going back through and analyzing what's reasonable and what would possibly gain the approval over the oversight board, staff is recommending that that be the payment schedule, the proposed payment schedule. However, that is obviously open to further discussion and direction from City Council. The next item of significance that will be determined by the Oversight Board is the transfer of assets formerly owned by the redevelopment or owned by the former redevelopment agency. The two major properties assets are the San Bruno Police Station building and the public parcel, the landscape parcel at 470 San Mateo Avenue. Now, the statute says that all assets of the former redevelopment agency are to be sold for the highest dollar amount possible, with an exception that if those properties served a governmental purpose, the Oversight Board can determine to transfer those to the government agency. So at this point in time, we're assuming that the Oversight Board will recommend the transfer of those properties to the city. However, that is a decision point that needs to still be approved by the Oversight Board. And the remaining item is the semi-annual approval of the ROPS, the payment schedules. Those will be presented and those will be approved twice a year by the Oversight Board. The city, as a successor agency, will be responsible for setting up these meetings of the Oversight Board. We'll be responsible for ensuring that all those meetings are noticed and that we comply with the Brown Act on those. So basically, given the importance of the decisions that are going to be presented to the Oversight Board, it's important that the two city representatives be able to fully represent all the redevelopment activities of the former redevelopment agency. And following the lead that many other agencies have sort of set on this, we find that many agencies are appointing the mayor and the city manager to their oversight boards, so that is the recommendation that was provided in this report.
Okay, do we need two actions or the appointment of the two individuals first and then one action? Okay, I would like to suggest, if there's no objection, that myself and the city manager be on the oversight board. And is there any, Mr. Lubke?
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, ladies and gentlemen. It's my suggestion that at the next confidential meeting that you have with the Pacific Gas and Electric Company regarding what we consider to be their obligation to enhance improvements and to cause something to be done to improve life and conditions in the city of San Bruno, that we consider the economic development costs as a something that would be would go delete the library idea and go for money for development. Thank you.
Through the chair.
Thank you. Rico?
Real quick, and maybe to the city manager or community development director. Just very quickly, as far as obviously the redevelopment was going to be instrumental in the transit corridor, obviously I don't serve on that, but could very briefly maybe you just let us know what that really is going to do to that whole vision that was had in the meetings that have occurred.
So the Transit Corridors Plan is in its final form. We are completing the EIR on that document. And we have yet to initiate the vision that that plan puts forth. The intent expressed in the plan itself is that the redevelopment tool might be utilized to facilitate infrastructure improvements that would be necessary: water, sewer, streets, and other types of necessary physical improvements that will be necessary in order to facilitate and accommodate the new development that's envisioned in the plan. Beyond that, incentives might be provided or support might be provided to private business or private development interests in order to assist their decision to locate in San Bruno and to build out the vision of the Transit Corridors Plan. And then using another example that has been effectively, or was effectively utilized in the past in San Bruno, is support to provide affordable housing, to buy down the affordability of residential units in order that they can be made available to low-income persons. That is another strategic initiative of the plan itself. It's something that we did very effectively at the Crossing San Bruno project using the tool of redevelopment. So at this point, it's difficult to say what the status of the plan vision and ultimate development will be. What can be said very clearly is that the tool of redevelopment will no longer be available, and it is expected that with the burden of the development solely on the private sector economy, that it is highly likely, and I would say probable, that either that vision will take a very long time to realize, or that it may not be realized at all, without the opportunity of other resources to help facilitate, provide public infrastructure, and otherwise assist the development of that vision. Any additional comments?
No, I'd say economic development, infrastructure, and housing are going to probably be the three biggest challenges that we have to tackle. Be more creative now that redevelopment is gone. And, something, hopefully some new tools arrive, but they're not here yet, so that's something that we're going to have to look into further. Thank you.
Okay, we're looking for a motion to approve the draft and also to approve the appointment.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. I don't see
No,
a...
it doesn't say a resolution, it just says approving draft.
Oh, I'm in the wrong spot. There's a resolution for successor agency.
No.
So we need to introduce, I'll introduce the first resolution, which is the one appointing the mayor and the city manager to the board.
Is this the resolution?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Okay.
That's the second resolution, correct?
That's the second one.
It's titled.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ibarra.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Okay. And now I'll introduce the first resolution.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ibarra.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 10D, adopt a resolution approving mid-year budget amendments for the fiscal year 2011-12 general fund, special revenue funds, enterprise funds, and capital improvement program budgets. Kim, you're on again.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. The budget amendment before you tonight is a mid-year budget amendment. It will summarize actions previously presented before the City Council and discussed. Some of these items will be items that were discussed at the study session on February 14th and the second quarter financial update. And I'm going to just quickly walk through those. Please stop me if you have any questions. On the revenue appropriations side, we have an increase of sales tax of $500,000, an increase in the transient occupancy tax of $400,000, a decrease in the general administration allocation, which is a decrease as a result of the loss of redevelopment of $325,000, increase in police revenues as a result of receiving COPS funding, $100,000, increase in fire revenues for the shared services agreement with Central County Fire of $130,000, an increase in building revenues for the current year due to major development permit fees of $387,000, increased state library grant revenues for an after-school homework program, $30,000, and an increase in the emergency disaster fund to account for reimbursements received for submittals for the Crestmore Glenview fire, just over $1.6 million. On the expenditure side, an increase in community development salaries, benefits, and program services in the general fund as a result of the loss of redevelopment. That amount is $368,424 for the remainder of this fiscal year. An increase of $30,000 for the after-school homework program. In the Emergency Disaster Fund, appropriations for the ongoing recovery and reconstruction efforts in the Crestmore-Glenview neighborhood, $440,000 expenditure increase. Increase of water professional services for the water and wastewater rate study of $5,000, and an increase in the wastewater fund for that same study of $15,000. Finally, summarizing the interfund transfers and the capital improvement project budgets, there's an increase for the cable services equipment replacement project of $152,186. That brings the total project budget to $2.5 million. A transfer of gas tax funds and an increase for the budget for Commodore Drive pedestrian access project of $80,000, bringing the total project budget to $400,000. Transfer of park and lieu funds and an increase for the Lions Field synthetic turf project, $1.5 million for a total budget of $1.7 million. And finally, a transfer of redevelopment funds, an increase in the budget for street medians and Grand Boulevard improvement project, $320,000. That item in particular is an item that's included on the ROPS, but will be subject to approval by the Oversight Board. However, we will proceed with this budget transfer at this time until further decided by the Oversight Board. So that will bring the total budget to $1.7 million. So that concludes the budget amendments proposed for this evening. Happy if there's any questions.
Okay, any questions?
Looks good.
Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to adopt the resolution. Introduce.
Vice Mayor Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. 10E, adopt a resolution authorizing use of $100,000 from the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant for the Energy Efficiency Retrofit and Renewable Energy Program.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. I know you've had a lot of public policy tonight, so I will be very brief in my remarks, although I have a full presentation planned, so please ask any questions. I'm sure I have the answers. The resolution before you tonight is to increase a very popular and effective rebate program called the Energy Upgrade California, which in brief is a rebate program available statewide to homeowners who own single-family homes and want to reduce the energy consumption of those homes. The rebates are based on how much energy you save. So if you save between 15 and 40%, depending on the type of improvements that you do on your home, for example, attic insulation or new water heater, for example, you can get rebates to match that. So $1,500 to $4,000 in energy efficiency rebates. Statewide, it's administered by local utility companies. So in our case, those rebates would come from PG&E. In June of last year, the City Council allocated $80,000 of energy efficiency and conservation block grant money that we received out of a total of $160,000 from the U.S. Department of Energy. We allocated $80,000 of that to provide matching rebates for residents in San Bruno. Shortly after that action, in August, San Mateo County did something very similar, where they also provided a matching rebate for the standard PG&E rebate. That means for a short period of time, folks in San Bruno, let's say they saved energy of 40% energy reduction. That qualified them for a standard rebate of $4,000. If they were in San Bruno, that actually turns into $12,000. So as I said, it's a very popular program. We had, so far we have 20 residents in San Bruno who have taken advantage of it. Their average rebate, this is a standard rebate of $3,000, so that means they got about $9,000 back. And their average project cost was around $14,000, so they had a very significant amount of savings. Because the San Mateo County funds were limited, there was a big influx in funds in the end of December, which resulted in a sort of a little bit of a late transfer of information from the county to the city, such that our funding ran out quicker than anticipated. And so the few homeowners were sort of were placed on a wait list. We currently have 7 homeowners on the wait list right now who are qualified to participate in the program. staff is recommending increasing the original $80,000 allocated to $100,000. That additional $20,000 would come from a energy efficiency and renewable energy study for our water and sewer pumping facilities, which would still go forward as the city is still committed to having that study as a priority. However, when that study was originally proposed a couple years ago and included in the CIP budget, it was always originally funded from water and sewer funds. And so when some additional grant money became available, we slid that in there. So the $20,000 transfer from the utility study to the rebate program would be replaced by enterprise funds, and so it wouldn't have any impact necessarily on that plan itself. I believe, just before I conclude my remarks, I just want to say that even though, so the additional $20,000 again would cover those folks on the wait list. Probably a few others who also are interested in participating could probably still squeeze in. But for those homeowners who may have missed, this particular rebate opportunity, the statewide rebate is still available until the end of December. So you can still get up to $4,000. And the homeowners in San Bruno that I've talked to have been really excited about the improvements to their homes. So if you're looking for a new tankless water heater or a more efficient furnace, these are really good rebates to take advantage of. Even if you miss out on the San Bruno matching, they're still available through PG&E. Happy to take any questions at this time.
Any questions? Action?
I'll adopt the resolution.
Vice Mayor Ibarra.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. And we did item F already. We're going to do item G, which is our last item. Receive oral report on the city's participation in the planning process for redevelopment of aesthetic features for the Caltrain grade separation.
In the last, I will try to be as short as possible. I know that you had a very long night. In the last 10 years, JPB and the city worked collaboratively on the development of the grade separation project. The design concept incorporated a decorative gateway in the city on the east side of the structure. In 2010, when the design was finalized and JPB needed to go out for construction, the city agreed to let JPB to go out for construction to prevent for them to lose the grant money for the construction of the project, even if this gateway wasn't incorporated in the design at that time. The reason why the design wasn't incorporated the gateway wasn't incorporated in the design was that the 2010 alternative design was for 4 tracks, and the gateway was incorporated in the design for 2 tracks. To solve the problem, the city agreed to enter in a memorandum of understanding with JPB, agreeing with them to work collaboratively on the development of a decorative gateway to develop solution and alternative and to incorporate in the project. You agreed last year in August for a financial cost sharing with JPB for this project. Following that financial agreement, JPB and the city went through a selection process of the consultant, and a very highly qualified team was selected jointly to develop this decorative gateway as a enhancement for the entrance in our community on the east side of the station. And now is a public, the next phase is a public engagement process. The consultant is tasked to develop 6 alternatives, 2 for 2 tracks and 3 for two tracks and 3 alternative for 4 tracks. And then those recommendations will come back for your final decision sometime in May. Next 2 months, the consultant team will have 2 meetings with the community representative seeking their input in the process. 1 meeting in March and 1 meeting in April. I have here Rafael Bolon, the project manager for the project. If you have any question, both of us can answer.
Any questions of staff or Raphael?
Through the chair.
Irene?
I'm a little confused. Who are the consultants meeting with? The community or?
So the consultants are wishing to seek input from the community and have conducted 1 meeting with JPB staff and with city staff. It may have actually been more than 1 meeting. We also invited our subcommittee, which consists of the mayor and the vice mayor, who have previously chaired the Citizen Advisory Committee and have worked extensively on the grade separation project for a number of years. It was their interest that we identify some citizens who might participate in this very limited term assignment to assist them in providing public community input to this design process.
Okay, so there's people that have been asked to.
There have not been any
No.
people asked.
Okay.
We're
What
gonna
staff is, let me just be a little bit more clear. Staff is recommending that from the individuals who have previously participated in the Citizens Advisory Committee that ran from approximately 2002 until 2006, I think, 2005, a number of years, when the grade separation was being planned, there were 15 or 20 folks who stuck with that process for a number of years. And we also recommend that you look at the list of folks who participated in the Transit Corridors Steering Committee, as that was a group that demonstrated a strong interest in downtown revitalization. So from that list, staff has provided to the subcommittee a short list of individuals that we think might be provide some valuable public input to this current design process.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Well, if I could
Yeah.
just add, I mean, the consultant, I think initially wanted to open it up to the entire community, and we felt that it just
That would
opened
be
a whole,
unwieldy.
yeah, open a whole can of worms as far as how trying to explain the whole grade separation. At least we are going to be selecting individuals in the community that have already expressed a lot of expertise in making those decisions and know the project. So, and that's my biggest concern is that these consultants don't beat this thing to death. I mean, how many options can you come up with? You know, so I'm willing to go along with the plan for now, but if they start providing us with, you know, a whole list of things that we can't make a decision on, then, you know, then something's going to have to happen. But, and I think the group of individuals that we hope to have on this in the selection committee also, you know, will feel the same way.
You say pre-scheduled meeting, if it's possible, in the beginning of March and 1 in the middle of April, and the engagement will be limited to those meetings, and you were provided with a proposal list of number of residents who can be engaged in the process. After your decision, then the city will contact those individuals and will ask their participation for those 2 meetings.
Okay.
All right. We have a short list here, and we'd like staff to contact these individuals to make sure that they're willing to help us out here. From the Grade Separation Committee, we'd like to recommend Doris Mays, Rob Scarpino, and Bob George. And from the Transit Corridors Committee, Mr. Robert Rico, Mike Karsha, and Mr. Wayne Parker. So if you can contact those individuals to make sure that they'd like to participate in this, I think it's a very good short list of people that have been very active for many years on this, and won't have a big learning curve. So
They will be contacted tomorrow.
What was your mother?
Thank you.
Oh, your mother was in the grade.
All right. Report of commissions, boards, and committees. We don't have any. Comments from council members? We've already had a lot of that, I think. We were planning on a closed session this evening, public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, point something, but it's not here. City attorney, but we are going to postpone that because of the late hour. And meeting is adjourned until March 13th, right here at the Senior Center.